Lions, welcome to the first podcast style episode of The Den of Men. My name is Danny Salinas, and my host for today is Melton Thomas. He is a fascinating man that I met here in Mexico. I'm living in Chiapas, the southernmost state of Mexico, in a beautiful, vibrant, colorful town called San Cristobal de las Casas. I met him at a cafe, and we started getting into some deep conversations, which are my favorite kind of conversations to get into. And I could immediately tell that this man had some wisdom and some experiences and some fascination that he could share with us and with you. So with that being said, thank you, Melton, for being here.
Danny, it is definitely a pleasure, my brother. And you're right. When we had our conversation at the coffee shop, I knew immediately, this is a brother from another mother. So I'm really happy to be here and be part of this. I know it's your first episode, I don't think, which is kind of awesome. I feel honored. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm honored, man. I'm honored. So yeah, let me just, for anybody watching this and, who wants to figure out what is this podcast what is it gonna offer them? What kind of value can they expect? I want to ask you, what does someone stand to gain by listening to your story and the lessons that you've earned through your experience?
Yeah, I think, it's really important for, as you go through life, you pick up experiences, and hopefully if you're, like us in the Den of Men, I'm guessing if you're listening to a podcast called The Den of Men, you're about improving, yourself, hopefully on every level, not just in one area and neglecting others. And in that light, we all have something to share. And as we, gather this experience and figure out, go through our journey, figuring out what worked for us, what may not have worked as well, and sharing that, we just pass that along. And back in the day, whenever that was, different cultures had different levels of this. Men were better at passing this knowledge down and sharing these stories. So I really feel like we don't do enough of this. So, I do it myself. I pick up stuff from everywhere and everybody, younger, older. As you know, traveling through different countries, we just grab a lot very quickly to reframe, learn, add, and build. So, and also subtract some things you may not need. So, it's been a great journey, and I'm happy to share.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and I definitely agree with that, with the passing down of knowledge, and not enough of that going on. A lot of the knowledge that I've accumulated has been from just books, podcasts, things of that nature. A big part of that's because I think us men tend to isolate ourselves now more so from other men. I know this was definitely a big thing in my life. So it's definitely a pleasure and a treat when I get to meet somebody that I can actually speak face to face with and get some golden nugget of wisdom passed down, in this book, called Iron John by Robert Bly, which is a big inspiration for my own work with all this men's work, is he talks about how, with the father, there's actually this subconscious nutrients that is being given and passed down to the son just by the son being in the presence of the father, even beyond any of the words that are said. Even if nothing is being said, there's something being communicated and passed down there. So in a similar fashion, I'm here with open arms to receive the nutrients and the wisdom that you have to offer. So I'd just like to know a little bit about your current situation. So where are you living, and what are you up to these days?
Yes, I am location independent, which I guess some people call it digital nomad. It's a version of that. I do slow travel. So right now I'm in Guadalajara. I've been here about 3 weeks. Prior to that, I was in San Cristobal for 6 weeks. And before that, Playa del Carmen for about a year. So, I'm kind of moving through Latin America. Right now, Mexico, which I'm loving. I've never really discovered how amazing and wonderful I think Mexico is had it not been for our inability to travel to different places. So okay, I'm gonna dig into Mexico. It's been phenomenal. So I run 4 companies. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had a lot of different businesses. That's another reason I travel slowly. I can go into a place, make connections, see what the opportunities are there, see if there's something that I can build and offer to the world of my constituents. And, right now I'm just digging into Guadalajara, which, man, it's an amazing town. I love it. So.
Awesome, man. Yeah, you're definitely making me jealous, bro. San Cristobal is the only town that I've really seen in Mexico, and I haven't really gotten a chance to do a bunch of traveling, but I definitely got to spread my wings and get out there.
San Cristobal is great, though. It's like in between a town and a city, like size-wise. Yeah. So each one has a different flavor. And to be honest, you kind of I need it all. Like, you kind of need all of it, right? Because sometimes I need the big city and the convenience and the things I can find there. And, I'm all about collisions. And, in the right place, you can have like amazing collisions very quickly. Like, one reason I love New York City, right? Is you met amazing people so fast, at a rate that is very difficult. In San Cristobal, where I got deeper into relationships, and I was able, I didn't meet as many people as fast, but I met amazing people, and it was kind of deeper because of, I don't know, the city dynamics, So definitely. I like the buffet, man.
Has that been a common theme throughout your life? Have you oftentimes been that kind of person that wants to taste a little bit of everything?
Oh yeah. I would tell people I'm an inch deep and a mile wide on almost everything. Like, I used to play a game where people could ask me a random question and I could probably talk about it for 20 minutes. Like, I am a voracious learner. I like to learn new stuff, and that just gives me a broad platform. It helps me in business. I'm a sales guy. So I'm selling things, and I can connect to people because I'm genuinely interested in what they're talking about. I've probably read some articles, had a book, watched YouTube videos. I've learned enough about it to like, oh, yeah, I've heard about this. Tell me more, and like have a real conversation, which I like. To me, that's part of growth. And I've been like that my entire life. It's funny, back in the days, they would tell you, and not that it's bad, but they would tell you to specialize. So find a thing and go deep in that thing, where now in our world, the change is so fast. I think the ability to learn is a benefit. And, how quickly can you dig into something and kind of learn enough to get your momentum and get going. So that's been my core skill set my whole life. My teachers didn't like it much when I was a kid, but it worked out.
Has there been any drawbacks to taking that kind of approach to life?
Oh yeah. So everything's about balance, and then anything that you have a propensity for, or your personality, or fill in the blank, there's a blind spot there too. There's some things behind you that you're not paying attention to. You're not as good at. Again, I probably don't have as many specialities as somebody who can go deep in some of these topics. And so, but you have to figure out what configuration works for you, right? For your life. So in my case, if you're not going deep on some topics, like, again, I'm the tip of the spear. Maybe I'm the person to jump into a thing, add energy, get people excited about it, bring parts together, because that's what my personality is. So I just learned how to use that thing for me. When I was trying to use it in areas of my life or career that were deep and singular, it didn't work out as much.
Right.
So just learning that over time, like where you fit in, there's almost no, it sounds cliche, but there's almost no wrong answer. How do you apply it for you? How do you use what you have to make that thing work for you? Absolutely. That's kind of my approach to life.
I would say I have a very similar approach. For me, it's always been about connecting the dots and seeing how it all pieces together to see the big picture. And I don't mind not knowing the little nuances and details of things as long as I can stay up here and kind of look down on everything. So I definitely resonate with that approach. So if someone made a movie about your life, what would be some of the common themes that emerge from that movie?
Wow, great question. I think part would be definitely reinvention. So reinvented myself several times, which I think is important too in today's world. Completely different. If you saw even pictures of me from 5 or more years ago, it would look like a different person. And then if you go back, 10 years before that, it'd be a different person. Mm-hmm. And so there's your ability to reinvent. You see this, you're a musician. You see this in great musicians all the time, right? When they're able to reinvent, connect to a new audience, and almost become a new artist, again. But applying that principle to life is something I've been very good at. I think another thing would be openness. So I told you, a voracious learner, but I'm not I don't think I'm a know-it-all at all. Like, I know what I think I know, and I'm not married to any ideology, really. Like, very few. Like, kind of general ones, like love. I think that's the most powerful force in the universe. It'd be really hard to shake me from that. But I don't know. Like, I leave a little bit of room for growth, and you have to. There's any place where you don't do that, or if you're married to your ideology, you don't leave room for growth. So people can bring me new ideas and new things that may even disagree with what I think I know, and I'm very open to hearing it. And I'll ask you a lot of questions. I qualify it. I challenge them. But if it comes down to it, that their view or idea on this topic trumps my view or idea, it's quick. I don't even have to fight it because I want it to be right. I want to learn. I want to grow. I don't want to be stuck in, whatever the old stuff was that I thought I knew. It's better to experience growth, in my opinion. And I hope I don't think I ever will stop growing. I look at some people and they're, 90 years old or older, 80 in their 60s, and they're like same stuff. They listen to the old school music. Nothing wrong with that. You like what you like. But I want to hear the new stuff too. I just add, you know what I mean? I want to experience the new. And I think that's what life is all about. The universe is about expansion. So to continue expanding, if you're not doing that, you're kind of not in that flow, in my opinion, the flow of the universe.
Absolutely. There's a quality that I think that's coming to mind when I listen to you speak, and that's just like passionate enthusiasm for life, and it's infectious.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's why I wanted to interview you, because I definitely sensed that. And especially like being in somebody older than me is like, I know typically people get jaded as they get older, and to see like this vibrancy in your energy and this like childlike wonder and bewilderment, it's really inspiring.
Oh yeah, man. On some levels, like my friends would call me Peter Pan, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like the boy that never grew up in that way, and like my curiosity and vibrancy and energy. But as you get older, you get a little more wisdom. And I'm like, in my mid-40s now. So and just kind of along this topic, I reinvented my life totally at 40, 41 maybe. So I had a great life, had a beautiful, charismatic fiance, television personality, all the stuff I thought I wanted. The great place with the floor to ceiling windows in Chicago, and all the stuff. And I'm still kind of dying on the inside, because when you're highly capable, as many of us are, the universe will give you what you ask for. So you can go after this thing or this stuff or, this life as you should. And, but often, it not be worth the price of admission. You know what I mean? Like you end up achieving this goal, and then you feel empty. It's like a hollow victory, really. You know what I mean? You have it, but it's like, it's not fulfilling you, and you're not really happy there. And that sounds very cliche, but in my case, it was real. And I was engaged, and I heard my story becoming the story of my friends who were already married and unhappy, and all the other problems that I heard come out of that, which I didn't personally identify with. My parents have been married for 50 plus years. And so all that together is just in my mind. Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna do the tough thing? Because anything worth doing typically is difficult, or at least it feels that way at first. Often it's not really, it's just new, right? But in this case, it really was difficult. I was like, you know what? I'm going into, and I mulled over for a year. I didn't want to move back to Indiana, to my parents' house. I couldn't find another way out of it. I tried to stay in that situation, but just remain amicable and, just keep going and onto what's next, right? And a lot of times that's what we do. We hit a thing in life, something happens, and then we move forward from where we are, right? It's a pretty natural thing to do. What I did is I just blew the whole thing up. I said, you know what? I'm going to see if it's true that when people say, if I can go back to when I was 18, knowing what I know now, I would, fill in the blank. I was like, well, I'm going to put this game to work, put this mind to work, and see if this really is the case, or if that's just a cliche, which most people wouldn't do that. So I got rid of, like, I ran a hip hop and sneaker blog I got rid of, a couple thousand pair of sneakers. I either sold them or gave them away. My clothes, I had already been dabbling in minimalism. And so everything I thought I knew that I could identify, I wanted to challenge it and say, okay, stop learning, start doing, right? And not that I wasn't doing before, but now at a different level. Is minimalism good for your life? How would you implement it? What's that look like for you? Because it's different for everybody. We all have a journey. I stopped eating meat, partly necessarily because I had a startup at the time. I couldn't get the traction that I wanted in that environment. I feel like I had some emotional baggage and things going on that prevented me from full momentum. So I scrapped that. So I was completely broke. I moved into my parents' basement. And even though I made that decision on purpose, now I was actually battling depression. I couldn't afford a gym or a haircut or anything else. And you're in your 40s, right? So the thoughts in my brain I had to battle, like everybody else in the world is out having fun and going on dates, and they have girls, and fill in the blank, and here you are in the basement. And so also one of the first things I did was I cut out porn and jacking off, right? So I followed this no fat pattern because I'd heard about it, and I was like, well, now's a good time, because if I'm in the basement doing that, I'm gonna feel worse about myself, not better. So a part of it almost decided to like really love yourself and scrap everything. Give yourself the best chances you know how to do. Listen to your inner voice and let it guide you to a healthy place. And that's exactly what I started doing. It was phenomenal. I went through a whole series of books on belief change. I started doing self-hypnosis to get through the conscious resistance that I may have or something, and kind of program the computer directly. I started working out outside until I could afford a gym. I afforded my $15 a month gym membership because I literally went back like when I was 18 and was pushing my lawnmower once the weather broke, pushing my lawnmower around the neighborhood for cash, and literally just started from scratch. And then trying to figure out, okay, so how do you make money from nothing? You have ideas and you have thoughts, but then how do you implement those? So I started studying no money down strategies for real estate. I was already like into cryptocurrency, but obviously you need money to invest. So I made my own crypto with a buddy of mine, just learning and trying to implement everything I can, from drop shipping and e-commerce to, I literally walk door to door. I looked down the street in Chicago, and I saw in the hood, like barbershop, beauty salon, liquor store, beauty supply store, car wash, etc. And I was like, I'm going to sell something to everybody on the street today. And not knowing what that was. So I would walk into like a drugstore and be like, oh, they got a couple watermarks on the ceiling. They probably got leaky pipes. Looks like their floors need to be buffed, blah, blah, blah. And literally door to door, their parking lot's jacked up. This person needs this, that person needs that. And I would start having conversations with the manager or the owner. And it's pretty easy to get somebody to allow them to quote you for something that they need. It doesn't hurt them to quote you. And they say, great. So now I had pictures, I had information. And then I would go find somebody and say, hey, I need a parking lot done here. I've got a customer that I'm doing this for. I need you to give me a wholesale price, 20% off or whatever, because I'm going to do this all day. I'm going to bring you X amount of business. And sometimes I walk in the door with 3, 4, 5, customers already, right? So the business understood that proposition. Obviously the owner needed that work. And so it wasn't always smooth either. Like I remember walking into this place and they had my portfolio, this nice thing I made with the pictures, and I had computer images of what their place would look like after. And they were like, 6 other bids in there. I'm like, but it's part of the growth, you know what I mean? So not hating the journey, like Kobe would say, like loving the journey was really a part of it. And I piece by piece rebuilt a life until my core business before that had been consulting, like kind of like big 3 tech process consulting. And so I eventually got a client in that. And it was a blessing from the universe. And, we can get into this, but a lot of things is, I think everything, to be honest, is the channel that you're on, right? And that sounds a little fluffy, but I'm not a fluffy or woo-woo guy. This is like real energy. This is how the universe works, right? So we're talking about like how you think and how you feel. So your thoughts, that's electric. Like there's a there's synapses in your brain, and thoughts kind of, electric currents zip from one to the other. And then your feelings, and you can measure these two things. When you're happy, you're one color. If you're angry, you look red. If you're scared, you might be, yellowish. There's different colors that happen with your feelings. And these two things together determine the channel that you're on. So staying on the right channel through that process, I knew, that along with kind of the physical part, because when I'm in that situation, I have to keep myself up, right? And not allow myself to get depressed or down, or, things feel tough and it's like, oh, when's this going to end? I have zero idea. Well, I started going to the gym twice a day because I had to stay high on endorphins, right? I had to keep myself in this energetic state mentally where the ideas were flowing and, things were great. Right after workout, you're just in the best state that you're going to be probably in that moment. And then if we're off, I go back to the gym. So now I'm accidentally rebuilding my body, right? And when you change your physiology, you move your psychology as well. And then, everything started to flow, and I ended up getting a client that put me up in I lived in the JW Marriott, which is very, very nice, in Houston for like a year. So now I've got all these hotel points. And when that project was over, I'm like, great, I'm not going to move back to my parents' basement. Obviously, it's time to, do what's next. I'm doing okay now. Took off and went to Colombia because I needed to put myself in a cave. In a few different ways. One, to focus, and to do something new. It's going to feel hard, but it's not really hard. Had I done it 100 times, it'd be easy. So how do I start being a virtual real estate investor? And at that time, pre-pandemic, it wasn't that many people doing it. And it's funny, like, and you may have a different way. Everybody has their own thing that they're called to, but I really felt like this agreed with what I should be doing right now. A little bit of anxiety in there, but that's not really fear. That's excitement, right? You have to rebrand that. And dude, it was awesome. I came back with like 8 properties, and no matter how tough it was, I'm making cold calls and I'm, grabbing lists and trying to find the deal and make a deal and craft a deal and dealing with some issues. And every morning I woke up in Colombia. So every day I woke up, I was winning. And so I built that into the system, right? So I'm kind of big on that, building systems to do work for you to get a job done, because you'll run out of willpower, you'll run out of motivation. Mm-hmm. So the less I have to lean on that, and the more my system is working for me, not just to move me forward, but also to cover my blind spots, right? So I did a lot of different personality tests and things like that when I was in the basement to say, okay, here's what I have a propensity to do not as well. How can I protect myself from that with a system that kind of the rules are built into that, and I don't have to put any willpower into that. And also that system should propel me forward. And so that was all part of it. You're kind of doing that now, right? In San Cristobal, like it's like a focus mode that you get, and it's excitement from traveling that adds to your momentum and your energy. So I recommend it to anybody that can do it.
Yeah, man, I resonate with that. There's actually a quote comes to mind from a book I just recently finished, an audiobook called Atomic Habits, where James Clear, he says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So
Facts.
So
that is true.
Speaking of systems, like what is your typical, like, do you have a morning routine that you typically go through, or what are some things that you do every day, or at least, as much as you possibly can to ground yourself and to really bring you back down to earth and make sure that you're connected to that channel that you're talking about?
Sure. So I'll preface this by saying I have not always had a system or routine. In fact, my routine has been no routine for a lot of my life. And it was just like energy and forward momentum, right? Which will get you so far. But, like you mentioned, the grounding effect and some things you get from habitual movements, sometimes I would miss out on. Minus little things like making my bed every day, which, makes you feel good. And, there's a lot of science and knowledge around that thing now. Even when I lived in hotels, I would make my own bed just for that reason. Nice. But I do have a morning routine now that I like a lot. So I started trying to move in the morning because, that early, why wait to the end of the day, I guess, to get your endorphin pop? I want to carry that into my day. And I want to reconnect to my body, stretch and do all that. So I'm big on like peak performance is really, really my thing. Not just working out, but like optimization of making everything work together so you can show up as the best version of you. And
Absolutely.
so in my morning routine, I'll typically do some type of, I have an app called Semen actually that I use now. And it changes. As long as I move in the morning, it's fine. But for the last few months, I get up, I do 7. It's like the 7-minute workouts. You can do 1, 2, 3 circuits of it. They change it every day. They gamify it. So, you're ranked against other people working out around the world. And then they have another app called Halo. And I'm mentioning this because I've had an issue in these areas, like having a routine. Actually, I don't know if I've ever really had a routine that I actually look forward to every day. Not just one that I can maintain, but one that I look forward to. And so this gamification, and I knew that, that's a trigger for your mind to help you establish new habits, but I hadn't figured out how to do it until I found this app. That's why I mentioned them. But there's many ways to do this. And then the other app, Halo, would pop up right in the 7 app saying, hey, do you want to journal? And it's prompted journaling. Another habit I've been trying to build and establish. So last year, that was my New Year's resolution to journal more. I think I had 7 pages. And this year, before discovering that, I think I had doubled it. I had like about 20 pages done, but not what I want to do. And now with the prompted journaling, I'm actually journaling on paper better because, it just asks you questions and connects you to feelings and thoughts, and it's slightly gamified, and then we move on to to my day. But I do prepare my clothes at night for the morning. I take as many things out of my decision tree as I can, especially the night before. Not only so my subconscious can work on them, and whether that be things I want to think about and go to bed with, so that it can do the heavy lifting that it does. Then I often go to sleep to hypnosis, depending on what I'm trying to program myself to do. And then in the morning, I'm just executing that routine and not using thoughts. So the more I know I'm going to go to work today because I work in different coffee shops and co-working spaces. So the night before, I figure out where am I going to work tomorrow? What do I need to take? Let me prep my bag. My gym clothes are in there too. Boom, boom, boom. And now I'm not chipping away at my willpower, chipping away at my motivation, and running on empty at the end of the day. Again, I run 4 companies, so you can lose a lot in these decisions, right? And you see this with guys like Steve Jobs and Zuckerberg and Obama, where they've got the same shirt all the time, same suit, maybe two different colors, 3 different colors, and 2 ties. They do this for a reason because they make decisions all day. Your brain will suffer decision fatigue, so you have to take some of that out if you want to apply that in for a momentum way. And so these are part of the systems that I establish. Then I have little rules, I guess, like systems that protect me from certain things. Like as you know yourself, in my case, I know I have superhero syndrome. So because I recognize that, I can, prevent myself from a superhero syndrome.
Oh.
So like I'll tend to lead from the front, right? I'll jump into stuff like a general and like, oh, okay, I won't actually do anything I want to do. Let me show you how to do it. Or yeah, I got that. Boom. And then I can tend to jump into things sometimes and overwhelm myself more so in the past. But now because I recognize it, I can catch myself and stop from doing that. And I think meditation is a big part of that, right? Because it's the art of allowing, and you start to see these things and you associate from them where you can see yourself in these patterns and habits. It kind of bleeds into all areas of your life, I believe. So that's helped me do that. I typically eat low carb just for a lot of reasons. So being in Mexico, I'm talking about configuration and lifestyle design. People won't believe it, but some people do if they've seen it. But if you saw me in the United States and then, 2 months later here in Mexico on a taco diet, and I was like ripped. And they're like, wow, what are you doing? How are you working out? I was like, I eat seafood tacos. I don't eat meat anymore. You know what I mean? At one point I was doing it, just like on a cheat day, but then eventually I didn't need a cheat day anymore. I like the seafood and seafood tacos or just vegetarian food or vegan food. And so, just building little systems. I don't go 2 consecutive days without working out. right? So no 2 days off. And it doesn't have to be an intense workout. If I'm not feeling well, it might just be stretching or yoga. But making sure that you have these actually ground you because you have habits that you build, which is even more important if you're an entrepreneur or someone like in my case. I have 0 people I ever have to answer to. Like, I want to sleep in, it's always okay. That may not be okay. I may miss some important phone calls or something, but I have the option to not do anything. I never have to go to the gym. I never have to anything. Like, you know what I mean? And so I have to build discipline into my life for me, because through discipline, you get growth, right? So I don't know if I rambled on or answered your question there.
No, you definitely answered the question very thoroughly. So thank you for sharing that. All right, we're back. We had some little technical difficulties there, and Melton went ahead and teleported to a different place. So here we are. So you were talking about the systems that you have in place, particularly like the things that you do and these apps, Semen and Halo, and yeah, I think that's all super important, man. I love the gamified aspect of it because that's a big one for me too. If things can get monotonous for me, and I think both you and I are constantly seeking novelty, which isn't a bad thing. You know, we just have to structure that into our lives, and I think that's a good point that you made, which is like knowing that you have this superhero complex thing, right? And I think it's important to know our weaknesses and our strengths so that we can, go designing our lives so that they can best suit us and our weaknesses and our strengths. But the next question I wanted to ask you had to do with, I know you mentioned that, the reinventing was a big theme of your life, and particularly this most recent one where you were, back in your mom's basement. And a lot of the work that I do with these guys in the Den of Men, just to give you some context of why I even called it the Den of Men. So my name is Daniel, right? And so I grew up in a very religious upbringing, and one of the stories that always like stuck out to me was Daniel and the Lion's Den. And to me, I don't identify with being, religious or per se, more spiritual nowadays. But I do find there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible and in these stories and myths and things of that nature. And to me, what that story really represents is one of faith, even in like the pits, right? The pits of darkness that we encounter. But also there's another spin that I kind of took to it. And it's that of descending, right? And this is something, again, that's talked about in that book I was talking about, Iron John and Robert, by Robert Bly, where there's, and this was me for a long time, so this is why I know it to be true, is that there's this feeling, especially when we haven't had the best father figures, there's this desire to transcend the errors of our fathers, a little prematurely, right? It's almost like we want to become enlightened and we want to grow our tree like up towards the heavens before we've really dug our roots deep, right? And I believe you can only grow as high as your roots are deep. So the Den of Men, to me, it's a way to have men who are more connected to their feminine nature, more connected to creativity and to these more subtle energies of the world, to kind of descend and dig their roots a bit deeper and go down into the depths of their psyche and confront the lions that are waiting there, right? The demons and all these things, and recognize that that is also a part of who we are, and learning to integrate that so that we can be a more integrated, full, holistic human being. And for me, that was a huge journey, like a huge stepping stone forward, was to like get back in touch with that masculine energy, because I was afraid of it and I was ashamed of it. And the word shame is the biggest one, is that I felt like I've dealt with that so much in my life, and I didn't even understand the gravity of how much it was actually influencing me in my life until I started to purge it. And then I realized, oh my God, like this is what it means to like live and be independent and truly like feel free for the first time. Because up until then, it's like you're being really just run by your shame. It's a way that people can use. It's a tool that people can use to manipulate you, right? If they know that you're going to be shameful about something. And I cared about people's approval way too much. So anyways, that's just to give you a little context of what all that is and the work that I'm helping men do. But I would love to hear how shame has played a role in your life, especially more recently when you were in this, reinvention period here. And how have you dealt with it? And how have you learned to purge it for yourself?
Man, there's a lot packed in there. Like, and we're all on this journey, right? There's no right answer and you're not done yet, right? Every time you think you kind of gone and conquered that thing, your fear is smarter than you, right? And shame really equates to fear. Um, and you don't really know where the borders are until you touch that electric fence. And they're like, oh, boy, I don't know about this. I'm afraid of that. And so that's kind of part of where we were kind of talking about earlier, being brave enough to be open enough to continue on that journey in spite of. But definitely, when I moved to the basement, that was the second time I moved into the basement, kind of, right? The first time, again, I told you I was doing consulting. I had corporate apartments in places. So I would fly out to clients every Monday morning and home on Thursday night. And at some point, I realized I was only home, 5 days a month. And so that was in my college relationship that bled into my post-college life, and things needed to change. And so I just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm leaving Indianapolis at the time. And I put my stuff in my parents' basement. I had my corporate places, but, moving back to my hometown, which at that time wasn't the most glorious hometown in the world, was a lot mentally. It felt like taking a step backwards, even though I wasn't going to live there the whole time. So I had a whole bunch of stuff packed into moving back again, which I never anticipated, this time for a completely different reason. And I had to reset and rebuild and deep dive. And I knew all the good stuff was going to come out of that in my head. And I read this book by Gary John Bishop called Unfuck Yourself, which is an excellent book. Right at the new year, which I tend to kind of do stuff like that to prep for my year. And it was just everything I'd been thinking for that prior year became clear. Dude, you got to do it. That's what you have to do. The longer you put it off, the longer it's going to take to get to where you need to be. So where are we going to get started? And, but it still came with, shame because, my relationship to this amazing person was going to end, right? And other people were going to look at it and be like, you left her? Why would you do that? You know what I mean? And wait, you moved into Gary, Indiana, into your parents' basement? Why would you do that? After leaving this dope place you had, all the stuff wrapped in. And I went to one of the top business schools in the country in undergrad. It was people my age, it's true. I was friends. I have really good friends, fortunately, and they would invite me to things like a barbecue festival. I remember at the time, and I met the governor of Illinois at the time, and other alumni from my school and some other guys. And they all went to the same country club. That's how they knew each other, and they had businesses and all the stuff. And I'm living in the basement. They don't know this. Right. And so you're talking about shame, you shoulda. And there's this other book that I read while I was in the basement called The Millionaire Morning. So Hal Elrod wrote this book. And Hal Elrod, he's a great guy. He tells the story. And then a series of books came out of this, The Miracle Morning. It's Miracle Morning for Millionaires. So in a series of books, they had The Miracle Morning, the original one, and then they had The Miracle Morning for real estate investors, The Miracle Morning for millionaires, different ones. And the one for millionaires, he actually was a real estate investor, which was going along with what I was learning. And one of the things he said in the book that still stands out to me today, and there's so many jewels in there, is don't shit yourself. Don't shit your pants. Because we all tend to shit our pants. And that is what adds to that shame and fear. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Or even externally, right? The world should be this way, but it's not. Things are the way they are, and you can either keep the emotion, or you can have the progress, but you can't have both. So you need to make a move in that direction and start to better your situation, better the world, fully accept who you are. I like what you just said a minute ago. I equate that to another practice that I adopted when I was in the basement. and learning about myself and my personality and who I am on all levels, not just the shiny part, the the shoulds too, right? Let me learn about these. And I had to learn to hug my shadow, as they say. So your shadow self. And people, including me, tend to not want to deal with that part. You tend to label it like this is bad, this is whatever. And then it just occurred to me, I can't call that bad if it's me. I still be loving me fully. Like that doesn't match. So I had to love my shadow. I had to hug it like a little boy. Like I'm the adult, I'm the father, I'm in control. But my shadow's gonna have a fit and whine and do all the stuff that your shadows don't want to do. And then I kind of think of it like I let him hug my leg because he's a little guy, and I hug him and I pat him on the back and I stoop down to his level and I say, "How you doing, bud? You okay?" Like and give him a hug, and then we're still gonna go do what I said we're gonna go do, right? But you know what I mean?
You still got to go clean the room, right?
Right, you still got to be the adult in the room. You can't let the shadow run the show. And so that's kind of what I gathered, a little bit about that and shame. And then I started cutting things out that I thought would add to that. Like I said, porn and no fap, and that whole thing worked into that because I'm in the basement. How am I building myself up and feeling shame, kind of tearing it down at the same time? That didn't match. And it was a good time in my life for that, right? On top of like I couldn't date anybody anyway. I didn't have any money. So so let me put this whole section of my life to the side and focus on, good things only and building and pouring into me, which I'd never done in that way before. You kind of do that in a way in school or even in college or sometimes in sports, you're pouring into these areas of your life. But this is an adult reset. Like, and I'm going to take this time, put everything else on the side that doesn't match this frame and focus on this and pour into me. And dude, it worked. It worked in multiple ways. It worked in my energy levels. It worked and I still can't quantify what happened, but you hear people say when they do no fap and such that, women respond to them differently. It takes about 2 weeks. Dude, it took about 2 weeks. And women I knew were not like interested in me at all, but I would catch them kind of like starry-eyed, mouth slightly open, like, and they snap out of it and they scurry off. Like things that would never happen before that I never noticed. And I'm like, wow, I may have tapped into a superpower for real here that I didn't know about. And so just kind of keep adding to that and growing and shedding shame and finding it and, feel the fear and do it anyway type thing. I mean, if you're in this growth phase, everything is going to be a little scary. Mel Robbins, I think, talks about this in her book, The 5-Second Rule, where the first thought you have to do something to make a move, that's the jolt that you're getting typically, not all the time, but you're getting that jolt from spirit. That's the move you should make. But after 5 seconds, your brain's going to kick in and try to keep you safe. And like, oh, wait a minute. What do you think about that? I don't know about that. It's going to give you all kinds of stuff, all kinds of reasons to go the other direction. That's where the fear and the shame kicks in, but you have to do it anyway. Right? There's no growth in not learning and not doing that.
It's interesting as you're talking about and the whole process of descending into the den. It's interesting how like you went to go live in your mom's basement, which is underground, right? Going down into that.
Sure.
That's where you, to me, that's where you meet yourself where you're at truly, and you stop lying. At least for me, this is how it was. I stopped lying to myself about, I talk a lot about the masks that we wear, really just to hide. That's the way that we hide, right? All these different masks that we put on for all these different people. And what was funny was for me, I know that I wore like the final mask that I was wearing before I finally like ripped it all off and was like, let me just look at who I actually am instead of who I think that I want to be. I realized that like I was actually not even very social at the time. I was living in New Mexico. And it's funny because I didn't even have like a ton of friends. I wasn't going out there. So I was wearing this mask for like myself. Like that's what's so I wasn't even wearing it for anybody else anymore. And that's where like when I finally ripped it off, it was just like I just saw like my flaws, my weaknesses, all the stuff that like I didn't want to admit to myself, And it was very, very humbling. But from there, from that integration, from hugging my shadow, like you said, I like that analogy. But we're still gonna go do what we got to do anyways, and
Yeah.
integrating that in there. So one thing that I wanted to ask you about, this is the thing that I find fascinating about all this is the no fap, cutting out porn and all this stuff. So what role has this life force energy played into your life since then? Like especially like once you got the money to feel like you could go back out there and start dating again. Like how have you found that balance so that you don't lose that life force when dating like women?
Wow, this is interesting. So I don't know if I'm the typical case. I don't really date much, to be honest. If I could be just blunt, I guess I've always been kind of good with women on some level, but I was an unconscious competent, right? So in the basement and learning about this different stuff and even studying like persuasion and influence, because I think it's great for sales as a primal skill to have in today's world. And I would consider uh, that crucial when meeting other women and you're traveling different countries and you may not know the language. You talk about life force energy. I can take this a few different ways. One, some languages are universal, right? Body language is universal. This life force energy is universal, and it's very attractive, right? And so, how do you go to another country? Like at that time, I spoke zero Spanish. I'm in Colombia. My birthday was in like 10 days after I arrived. I did want to date that night. I didn't want to spend my birthday alone. I had an incredible birthday with this group of entrepreneurs from around the world that I met through this one guy. They took me to the nicest restaurant in Medellin. It was incredible. And I had a hot date. I didn't speak any Spanish, but I attracted them through this life force energy, right? So you can hold a frame as a man. You can be on a channel or woman. You can be on a channel, right? And that attractive force like brings you what you need. I'm big on being in flow and not force. I'll catch myself. I still do it, I'm sure. Trying to force my way. Again, very capable people. You can force your way and the universe will give you what you ask for. But it's better if you're in flow. And to stay in flow, you have to stay on the right channel. And that helps you tap into this energy center that man, it's really dynamic. And not only did it show up in that way, like I've been playing with it recently to change my mindset around money and finances. So I come from consulting life that's 10, 12-hour days on the road. We always work hard. Most people don't do it. But a few years, I've done it for like 15, 16 years. And then I went to startup culture. I run the startup, and you hear all the stories. Elon Musk lived on oranges and slept under his desk, and Bill Gates slept under his desk, and they puts this thing in it, and you haven't earned it yet. And one day, maybe last year or the year before, I'm not quite sure. Recently, I realized, wait a minute, this isn't matching what I say every day. And I'm talking to you, Dan. We met. We talked about we inherited a word of abundance. We were given abundance from our Father. The earth and all the fullness thereof is ours, right? So wait, if I'm in abundance and it's already mine, why am I trying to earn it? And it's one thing to work hard and to put the hours in because you love it and you're passionate and this is what you want to be doing, right? With your time. It's a whole different thing if you're doing it because you haven't earned it yet. You're putting in your reps because I haven't earned it. I'm not good enough. This is a derogatory, internally derogatory language that you're talking to yourself. You're trying to get here, but you're thinking like this and you don't think you've earned it yet. And to some degree, confidence comes with repetition. I get that. So the more rounds you put in and whatever that thing is, you get more confidence. But I've been experimenting lately with attracting from that place of abundance. When I didn't know what town I wanted to go to next, like a small example, like I'm here in Guadalajara, only move from a place of abundance. If you're moving from, man, the rent there is expensive, or, I don't know if it's only like this negative stuff that you're feeding on, and you're trying to make a decision, you can't make a good decision from a fearful place. That's just how it is. And so you have to, and it all whittles kind of down to fear for the most part. At the smallest common denominator, there's a fear there, right? Whether we're talking about shame or anything else. So you have to move from a place of abundance if you want to have an abundant life. I realized years ago that life is going to give you, if you look at life like school, right? You remember in school, if you wanted an A plus, you had to get all A pluses. You know what I mean? If you got a B, it would throw you off. Now you're going to get an A unless you did some extra credit or found some way to make up for that to get an A plus. Well, if you equate that to life, we would all say we want an A plus life.
Yeah.
Well, life's automatically going to give you some L's, man. They're just going to give you some F's and some D's, or at least you're going to see it that way. So if you want any chance at all of having an A plus life, every decision that you make on your own has to be an A plus decision. As I said, this has to be a hell yeah, I'm doing that type of decision. Otherwise, you're going to average out and not have the life you want in the end. You know, if you look at the long time. And so, using flow helps you have these like A plus life experiences that, in my opinion, have actually made up the difference for things that I didn't prefer to experience. Not that they were bad, you know. As long as you got something from it, you can use that to build and move forward from. But yeah, like energy for me is everything. I recently, this is gonna sound a little out there, a little woo woo. But one day, and you know, we go through phases, right? So some days this is stronger and easier than others because I'm now trying to finish unclamping this need to earn it, right? And focus on the abundance that's already here. It's not like I'm creating new abundance. Like there's more abundance on this planet and this universe than you could experience in a single lifetime. So how can I get on that channel and channel that into my experience right now? It's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And one day, last month, I was like, all right, I'm gonna earn $10,000 today. I'm gonna attract $10,000 into my life today. I don't know how. I don't know where it's coming from. None of that stuff. And I just felt it that day. Like, good. I'm good with this today. So there was nothing, you know, I had to battle, or even if you don't know you're battling in the back of your mind, it's gonna happen today. I didn't know why. I just decided this is my intent, and it felt like the thing to do. And sure enough, dude, I got a random check from an old client of mine that had underpaid me. I got people calling me with a referral. I got a couple big deals that day, and it came out to about 12 grand. So, and now I didn't effectuate that 12 grand because I had to, you know, interview and onboard these people to the next week. So that tells me, oh, there's more growth to do. And how can I do this every day? And where do I need to be in order to, you know, make sure that I can set my intention without pause or like, you know, regret, right? And fully get that thing. And that's been a journey as well, right? Because, you know, as I'm kicking these clients in, I have an end of the year goal. And I thought to myself, like, so I can do this every day, right? Well, if you got 15 referrals every day, could you handle that volume? I couldn't at that time, right? You know, so that told me, even though I'm saying I want 15 referrals a day or 15 new customers or clients a day, part of me didn't believe that because didn't think I could handle it. So,
Right.
in doing some analysis, I'm like, all right, I need to build structure so that I could fully have faith, you know, in what I'm doing. I use it as a positive instead of the negative. And more over time, I've learned to do that, to reframe and say, wait, is this serving me or not? This thought process, is that serving me to think this way or not? And if it's not, let's reframe that and think about it more clearly. Because what's really going on, right? You put the color on there. You color a event, good or bad, and so forth. So that helps you stay in flow when you're on the right channel and coloring things properly, and not giving yourself the negative self-talk and all these things. Before you know it, it doesn't take but a little bit to be kind of ahead of the pack, right? You know, if you're Michael Phelps, you've got some slight body modifications and advantages that some people don't have. His lungs are wide, but that's probably from swimming. He doesn't hold the lactic acid as much. That might be from working out. He's got slightly webbed fingers, but you add all these things together, you guy's a beast, you know? And that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I love what you said about like A plus decisions. It really makes me think of something I learned in my coaching program, which they said is like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And really taken that to heart. It's like, even when, especially when no one's looking, that's where it's like the most challenging, right? Like, it's easy to be on point when, you know, there's a ton of people watching you, but you know, it's like in the comfort of your own home, you know?
Yeah. Well, who are you doing it for? You know,
Yeah.
it's your life. I take that mentality, like you said, how you do everything, anything is how you do everything, even in the gym. Am I going to do these extra crunches at the end or whatever that thing is, these couple extra reps? Am I going to do it till it hurts a bit? Like, if I'm doing it in sports and the coaches they're yelling at me, then yeah, then it's kind of easy. But when you're on your own, now at this point, I think I've done it long enough that that's easy too, and it really has bled into all of my life. It's like a mentality, a system, a
Yes.
way of doing things.
Definitely. It's just like giving a tiny, like a tiny little extra 110%, you know, with everything that you do, whether it's the push-ups in the morning or the amount of
Yep.
love you're giving to a partner or whatever.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, so you mentioned like for your birthday, how, you know, you wanted a date and you attracted this date and you didn't even speak English or Spanish. And
Yeah.
so I want to dive into this a little bit because I know this is an area of forte for you. Um, and I actually have some questions. So most of the questions I've been asking you have been, you know, kind of general stuff that I think anybody could benefit from, and especially like the guys in the den of men. But I actually have some personal questions that I would like to ask you to
Sure.
actually learn from you, like personally, not just for everyone else. And it's specifically within the world of dating and relationships. And so you know, we can start at the base, just kind of work our way up a little bit. So I'm just curious, like, what from your perspective, what is it that women want?
Oh, who knows? But again, I do have little rules. Let me preface this. I think different is better than better. And you can always win with different, right? If
Mhm.
you're trying to blend in, you're really not trying to be different or be you, you're being them or who you think they want you to be. And
Mhm.
so humans, and particularly women, are very good at detecting this authenticity. And women, every woman on the planet has, 200,000 year line string of DNA leading right up to her sniffing out bullshit. And so the best way to stand out, or she wouldn't have got here, but more than likely. So the best way to kind of circumvent all that is to be authentically you. Now, I preface that in saying, like, you may have parts of you need to work on and develop, right? Uh, and if we're talking about like attraction, uh, certain things are attractive, right? So you can develop these things. Attraction is not really a choice, to be honest. So charisma is attractive. Humor is attractive, intelligence is attractive, power is attractive, and then you can stack these traits on top of each other to be a very attractive person. And it works with women, it works in business, it works. That's just how we're designed, how the universe works.
Mhm.
So you can, if you're not so charismatic, that's something that you can develop. You know what I mean, or choose to be charismatic. And so I put these type of things into effect. I think I have a bit of it naturally. And once I decided, or once I learned that, oh, this isn't a choice. Oh, I can double down on what I think I'm good at, or even build things I'm not super capable at, and use that in my daily life. And I think this is really important, particularly for single men, or it's important for all men, but for like me, I was making the decision to start a new life and live it a different way, and I had this vision of what I wanted it to be. And a lot of times, men can suffer, like leave parts of their life out. We're very often duty called. You see this even with married men, where they've got the family and the kids and the responsibility and all the stuff, but they're not doing anything to feed themselves, right? They feel lost or drained or ungrounded because it's all about responsibility and duty. Men are kind of like pack animals, right? We do things for our tribe or for our pack. We're very devoted to that tribe and that pack, which is important. But to show up as the best version of you, you also have to feed you and the things that matter to you. And if I'm going to be a bachelor and an entrepreneur and travel the world and not be able to speak the languages, I decided that this part of my life, women and dating and sex and all that, is not going to suffer at all. So this is a capability I need to get really good at. Right? I need to be able to eat what I kill, as they say, like attract what I need in my life when I need it. And that, to me, that's the staple of a man in general, whether it be finances, opportunity, resources, ladies. What can you attract? Can you get what you need out of life when you need it? Right. And so I consider that a primal skill to have, hone, and develop.
So when it comes to like attracting women, like for example, that day when it was your birthday and you kind of had the intention, right? Like you were like, I
Yeah.
would like to have a date for my birthday, right? What
Yeah.
is the process of attracting, like, and I'm talking about not just like the second you see a girl, but even before, like, do you put yourself in a state of mind, you put out an intention to
Yes.
the universe, and then how do you go about the whole process? What's going through your mind
100%.
even as you're going on a date?
Yeah, so I'm big on, like you said, setting intention and state management. And I kind of picked some of this up from, I think, Tony Robbins and a few other people, where they just kind of teach you to know what state you're in. And meditation helps with this a lot, and what state you want to be in. So, yes, there's a priming that you can do before you go out. So, in that particular case, I'm in another country, you know, shave and like feeling good, feeling fresh, you know what I mean? And everything in that way, physically, I feel like I'm the man right now, I'm the best version of me. But that's changing my energy too, right? And people can read this, they feel it when you walk in the room. I always say that if you and I were in the room together, I think we did say this when we met, and Sinatra walked in behind us and we weren't looking at the door, we know it. We probably stopped talking and looked like, well, we just came in here because he had presence, right? And so this is something that you can develop. It's something that's in all of us, right? And this energy force, and we can build presence. We can have presence, like in a tangible way. And so before going out, that priming and feeling like the best version of you is part of that, right? You want to be on a high vibration because that's going to be infectious. But now, if you're actually engaged in somebody, you want to kind of match their vibration. And we do this stuff naturally. It sounds like it's a big process, but if somebody's talking low tone, you come in kind of being like blabbing over them. Your energy's not going to match their energy. You're not going to build rapport. Right?
Yeah.
So you want to come in at a level that's, nice high vibration, but also an attractive frame. So typically, I'll just tell you a easy little hack. If this works for you, it'll work for everybody. But for me, I have certain people that I look at to model. I got this idea from the book Think and Grow Rich. In Think and Grow Rich, he had a panel that he suggested you build based on who you wanted to emulate, like certain traits. Maybe not the whole person, but if you wanted more, say, motivation and things like that. Like for me, in my case, I studied Arnold Schwarzenegger deeply because I wanted this board of directors that I knew well enough that when life situations would happen, I can go to them. Like they would just tell me, like, Schwarzenegger wouldn't do that. Schwarzenegger would say this. He would handle the situation that way, right?
Yeah.
So Hugh Hefner, I liked Schwarzenegger, Sinatra, Michael Jordan, actually, because I felt like I needed to. He actually, I wouldn't trade places with Jordan really, because I would almost say he has a competition problem. But they talk about this too. They say the world needs a certain amount of. And this is in a different book, but the world needs a certain amount of fill in the blank. Well, that may not be true for you. If you're low in that area, then you need to up yours. And so I deep dive Michael Jordan to think like, oh, how would he attack a problem? How would he work at a goal, right? And so I can up this thing and build a little board of directors. So back to the point, when I'm out or stepping into a room, I did this, a couple of weeks ago. It was pretty phenomenal. I think I told you about it actually. I'll walk in and actually embody James Bond sometimes, right? Because that's what Hef would do. Hef was not Hef before Playboy. And even when he started it, he adopted this personality. He developed it because he was in the James Bond movies and he wanted to be that guy. So you can adopt this mentality, this feeling where you feel attractive and powerful and dynamic and charismatic, and it'll up that in you, especially if you practice it, if you do it more and more. Well, also know that when you walk into a room, if you're so humans are designed to pick up certain cues, men and women. And if you're kind of alpha dominant in a case, then they'll pick that up. Like you don't have to say it, you don't have to talk about it. So walk into the room like Bond. What would he do? He kind of flash a smirk. He make eye contact kind of around the room, and everybody notices that he's there. And then he goes on and does his thing. Another way to do that is to imagine that you own this place. If you were the manager or the owner, how would you interact in the room? Well, they probably kind of sit, kind of stand by the bar or whatever, and they're like noticing the dynamic of the room, they're having fun, and they're enjoying that everybody else is. And it's kind of big dog mentality, like energy, big dog energy that you have. Is very attractive, very powerful. That's actually what worked in Colombia. I did it a few weeks ago here. As a caveat, you may have to watch it sometimes in your environment because it's going to attract everybody, right? And not everybody likes you peacocking in their area, right? I'm in Latin America. There's a lot of machismo down here. So it's not like only the girls notice, right? The guys notice too. And then you get challenges and things like that definitely can come out of it. But for me, it's all part of the game. I actually enjoy it. I like the bantering of it, even though it's not verbal bantering. Like, oh, I see these guys are a little bit threatened. How am I gonna dismantle this and at the same time maybe end up hanging out? You know what I mean? Like I'm not a threat, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the same squad here. It's just kind of part of the game.
So in your dating experience, like did you always just have like this natural ability, or were there times in your past where you actually struggled with attracting women, and how did you pull yourself out of that?
Yeah, I think I've always attracted women, but I have not always been a good closer, for lack of a better term. So I had a lot of girls that were friends and female friends, which is fine. And even the girls I wanted to attract and date, I definitely had my share of, ladies that I was able to date and go out with. But a good portion of them, I would fall into the friend zone or do these other things. And a thing I picked up from actually the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. One of the rules was you can, if you ever don't know what move to make the bold move, right? And if you ever make a mistake and that move is a mistake, make a bolder move. You can go deeper down the rabbit hole and basically bold your way out of it, right? So this is scary in practice though sometimes until you get used to it, right? And so with women, relating back to your point, I think a lot of guys make the mistake. Again, she's probably more intuitive than you, right? She's got a long string of DNA of sniffing out bullshit. She can tell that even though you're coming in, on some friend guy stuff. Oh, you like pizza? I like pizza too. Oh, wait, your hair's blue, my hair's blue too. And you're like kind of going this, build this friend guy energy, but that's not really what you want to build, right? I think it was Marcus Aurelius that said you can have everything you want in life now if you go right at it and stop taking the long way around. And so as a strategy to dismantle this apprehension that a lot of women have for, good reason, they have to, especially, I hate to sound like I'm ranking or anything, but as you kind of go up the attractiveness scale or like what men are calling, typically going after, right? I'm going to use a stereotype. If you're Kim Kardashian, she turns a lot of offers down. She gets them all day. So, oh, she's a bitch. No, she's filtering because she has to, right? And so for any girl, and especially as you go up this chain, it's better to dismantle them, take that away from them right away. So they don't have to be apprehensive. They don't have to worry if you're a threat. I kind of go in with this mentality, and I don't say this blankly with my words, directly with my words, but you can feel the energy of it. That is like, I like the look of you. Now I like to know if I like you or not. And think about it, like there's another business concept, and I learn a lot about life through business. It's how I evaluate opportunities. And, those opportunities could be with females, those opportunities could be with businesses, same principles. But always be the buyer, right? We're in a world full of sellers. Everybody's a seller, including me, right? Everybody, if you whittle it down to lowest common denominator, which is another principle, you've heard me mention like 3 times now, but to understand the trend, like how is this moving? I need to know at the core, like kind of what's the lowest common denominator here. And then I can kind of get the motion of it. So at the lowest common denominator, everybody's saying, I'm cool. I do fun stuff. It's all like, I'm cool. That's selling, right? But if you're the buyer in a world full of sellers, you're the buyer. Like, so you should always be the buyer. So this conversation, there's a great book about this, by the way. I think Can't think of the gentleman's name right now, but it's pretty famous and well known. But this applies to women too. So if she's at that point where she's basically selling her to you, and this happens in different ways. Oh yeah, I love to do yoga. Blah blah blah. And she's telling you about how cool she is, kind of. I take the, oh, that is cool. Tell me more approach. You know what I mean? And so I'm being the buyer, and I'm genuinely interested. I'm genuinely curious. Because people pick up that energy if you're not that. So it helps to actually be that kind of person. That happens to be my personality. But if it's not your personality, find your lane. Find the things that you are genuinely interested in. Let people be them. People love to let their light shine. Because now they don't have to try to be, like you mentioned earlier, wear the mask, right? Even with you, and it helps them open up. And if you're, unfortunately, there's not enough guys out here that are doing this. So if you're a guy that is doing this, and we definitely need to spread these ideas and get more guys turned on to these thoughts and concepts. But you're gonna have a pretty good life when it comes to women if they're just able to open up and express fully, but also connect to your unique masculine energy, right? Because you're being the buyer, you're stacking attraction, the body language. I mean, like I said, Michael Phelps has a few little advantages and a lot of hard work that made him a GOAT. Same thing with Usain Bolt. You can say the same thing about any of these guys: Schwarzenegger, Jordan, Lance Armstrong. You can fill in the blank. But applying this to you personally, I like to practice for the game. I call it my way of placing it. So you have in my brain, some things are like the real game. They're really important. So business in my case, and sale. But the practice for that might be, attracting a girl at a bar. Like I'm not attracting a client right now. I'm attracting a lady, right? So for me, that's good practice for the game. But also it gives me a chance to give, because I'm a bachelor. So what can I give her? Oh, let me go into this a little. This is a powerful, very, very powerful thing that you need to reset if you're talking to ladies. Man, we need to get rid of this wanting thing. Again, I'm like you. I grew up in a very religious house, so I wouldn't call myself religious now, but I am pretty spiritual. And there's a verse in the Bible though, and I use a lot of the principles I've gotten that stand the test of time comes from my religious upbringing. And one of those is thou shalt not want. I'm pretty sure that's a commandment. Thou shalt not want. Guys, you need to stop wanting. You need to start giving to her. Give her your time, your charisma, your humor, all these attraction stacking elements that we talked about a moment ago. You need to go in with the mentality, I don't want anything from her. And you've heard this in different ways when Kobe or different people are talking about the work they're putting in, but they're detached from the outcome. They're putting in the reps, they're taking the jumpers, they're running the miles, they're doing the stuff, and they're doing it to the best of their ability, right? But detached from the outcome. Well, the outcomes usually come from that, because everything's about energy. You're pouring energy into it. When you're talking about ladies, thou shalt not want. Like, go in with the mentality, because every guy wants something from her. All of them. I don't want anything. And there's plenty of times where I'll walk away, later we had a great conversation. I won't even get the phone number. First of all, I know I'm not calling.
What you say?
I know I'm not going to call 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean? Like, before I know it, I've got like thousands of numbers in my phone. I started thinking one day, like, dude, stop getting the number. You don't have to close all these deals. Why don't you just give to her? Have no objective. And I carry this into my entire life. And again, practicing for the game. So if you're at the 7-Eleven and the checkout girl has nice nails, you might say, oh, wow, nice fingernail. I like your nails. That doesn't mean I wanted her number. And my intent is to give to you. I should be, and I don't think you should placate to people. It doesn't matter if they like you or not. But your intent, my intent, is that I'm going to be your best customer all day. And you go around, I'm the buyer, I'm the best customer you're going to have all day, whether it's at the bar, or in the park, or at 7-Eleven. Like, these things together, you build this attraction energy around you, right? And this attraction force. It's not like you can turn it off. And it's just who you are. Now you're embodying that, right? And you're taking that into your day, you're taking that into your business, you're taking that into whatever practices you're going to do, you're taking that around women. They're going to notice because not enough guys are doing this. It's just how it is. It's better to be different. Different is better than better. It's a great way to stand out.
The same thing about, putting your A plus foot out there, and the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And yeah, I love how you can blend all these things. It's like, the way that you have that mindset about women is the same way you have the mindset about business, right? About like clients and stuff, and not feeling like you need to bend over backwards to try to get their money or whatever. It's like, I'm here with my value, my business, and I know I can provide the best value for you, but only if you're even willing to see that. And I don't need to prove myself to you. Yeah.
Game changer. That is a game changer. Like most people go in kind of with their hat in their hand and, thanks for this opportunity. And I really appreciate, no, I'm coming at you as a value peer. Hopefully we can collaborate. I know I have something that can really help you today. And which also means I only go at clients where I know I have something that can really help them. And if I can't, I'll refer them out if I can and help somebody else. Yeah. Giving is another principle that I learned in the Bible, and a lot of different, religions all kind of come down to this as well, that given it shall be given. And you're not giving necessarily to be given. It's just the way of life. I'm giving my time, I'm giving my expertise, I'm giving money, if I need to do that, like it just becomes part of you. And when you're on that channel, now things are flowing. Blessings are flowing through you. You didn't come to hoard them. They're flowing through you like a river, right? And you're working in flow, not force.
Absolutely. I want to share with you something that just happened to me, actually, and kind of get your thought on it. So, like, we talked a little bit about this and how throughout my life, I feel like I was more of a sex addict for a long time in my life, especially when I was like younger, and just constantly seeking that validation from women. And I also kind of had this natural ability to attract women that I didn't really know how to break down to a science or anything. And so it was a lot easier to keep getting that validation. And in some ways it was like awesome, but in other ways it kept me like in that pattern for way too long. Whereas if maybe I wasn't as naturally charismatic with women, like I would have been having to face that sooner, rather than going like years and years stuck in that cycle. But ever since finally breaking out of that and starting to give to myself and realizing that I don't need another woman's approval or validation or sex or anything, right? Since then, now it's been interesting because I've been trying to integrate that new understanding into my life and simultaneously, like, I feel like since I've started doing that, I actually feel like I've been attracting less women than I used to before, which kind of seems like counterintuitive in a way. But I also noticed that I feel like the quality of women that I am attracting is also like higher. So it's almost like I'm getting less women, but they're higher quality. And it doesn't even always end up turning into sex or a date or anything. But I guess I'm trying to integrate this all and figure out how to best take this approach. And so the thing that happened to me, right, is that I've been in San Cristobal, and like you were saying, there's not like a ton of people here, right? It's kind of smaller, and you've built like deeper relationships. So I haven't really, like the entire time I've been here for about 3.5 months now, I haven't really seen a woman that I just felt like this powerful connection with. I've met some women here and there, and it was nice, and we had some fun and some connection, but it wasn't this like intense thing. And yesterday, I'm just walking on the Andandor, like the main little walking strip, and there's this woman walking towards me, and all of a sudden, like, I saw her at a coffee shop before, so I just like stopped and started talking to her. And man, it was like as soon as we started talking, I felt this electricity, it was just like boom, this intense connection, and my heart just started pounding. And I was like so shocked because I hadn't experienced this in a quite some time, right? And I was definitely not expecting it. I was actually walking home ready to get in bed, And so I kind of like got a little nervous because I was like, whoa, this girl is like super attractive. And more than that, it's just, I can feel the chemistry like instantaneously. And I kind of fumbled a little bit. I actually ended up getting her number, and she seemed like she was like interested. I don't know if, I haven't texted her yet, I'm kind of just playing it cool. I'm going to like just be patient. I probably won't even text her for another couple of days. Just let the whole thing air out because it was such a jolt. But this is the interesting thing that happened. This morning I woke up and it was like my entire energetic system had been like rebooted. That's what it felt like, right? Like I had all this energy and all this love inside me. And I don't know what it was, but I just like, I got up today and it was like, I felt like I was kind of in a funk for like a few weeks where I wasn't like, I was still doing everything I needed to do and still, you know, like hugging the shadow, but still doing everything I needed to do. But today it was just like something was different. There was an energetic shift where I felt like so much more love for myself and for the world. And I started seeing all the beauty around me. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's interesting. And this is the very interesting question that I had for you. I was even debating whether to ask it or not because it seems a little weird. But in the context of men's personal development, right? And when you look at the polarities of masculine and feminine, like from your experience, what do you feel like is the purpose and role of women for a man? Like, what is the purpose? Why are they even here on this planet?
Oh, man, you're trying to get me beat up out here. I mean, I think
Personal
that's a
development.
big question. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, obviously they are, you know, they birth us. You know, you can go down that whole path, but just to pick out a segment, I think is important to remember is that there is a polarity with masculine and feminine energy, and I think every guy has felt that before. Like you said, you hadn't felt it in a while, and you get it, and there's something energizing about it, and it can be negative or positive outlets, right? You see this with guys that cheat on their wives, you know. And I knew a guy, my doorman, and he had this little affair for a while. And he was like, dude, I went home. I haven't loved my wife more. He had this energy. He probably had I don't know his wife. I don't know his relationship. But he probably had a flat kind of thing. They've been married for years and years. And then, you know, this new exciting thing injected this energy into that, right? And there's a chemical polarity, right? There's energetics between people that we've all probably dated people that were no good for us, but the chemistry was, you know, something that our molecules like each other a lot. I can't even stand when she opens her mouth and talks at the time, but man, she's sexy. You know, something, you know what I mean? Like there's a thing there that I think that's important not to negate and not to miss. And in fact, a lot of the guys I think in the NoFap community go that route. I'm not really in that community. In a lot of communities, although I adopted a lot of the principles. And part of the reason is, you know, you see these guys in these chat rooms, and they're like, it's been 390 days with no release. And then I see other posts, and like I'm thinking of one guy in particular, he's kind of an internet personality. And he's like, you know, I've been in this funk though, and not have a lot of energy and whatever. And I actually wrote him, and I was like, bro, you probably need to release. Like there's a purpose in this cycle, right? That humans have and have had for a few 100,000 years or longer, I don't know. But, you know, there's a reason for that, and it does give you something. It's as real as walking barefooted in the park or on the beach. There's an electrical transference. It's very grounding, right? And so it's as real as that, if not realer. Like, I mean, we are one, male and female, yin and yang. We're much stronger together. So I think part of that role is to have that. Like even on a non-sexual level, I have some great girlfriends in my life, particularly in the last few years, that have been able to speak to me in ways that, you know, I'm sometimes making fun of them. And initially, you know, poking fun of them. And then I kind of get what they're saying. And like, oh, so for instance, I talk and I think in a very like masculine way. I'm going to conquer my day. I'm going to beat today's ass. You know, Tuesday going to get it. Like I wake up, I get hyped. I'm like, man, I'm about to give it to Tuesday. And my girlfriends would say, are you going to, like, they rather love on their day. Like, have you loved on your day today? Have you nurtured your day? Have you cared for yourself in your day? How are you caring for your clients? So I'm talking like conquer mode, right? And they're talking love language. But it's value in that. It's not like without value at all. I think it's equally valuable, which is the one reason why, you know, companies do better when they're diverse. They have, you know, different people there, and men and women, and that way you don't have these blind spots, right? Because we are literally meant to yin and yang together. So I think women play a pivotal role in this. And like I said, when I decided to embark on this life, I did not want any part of my life to suffer. That's not life and life more abundant. As I was promised, that's another version of life. Like, it's pretty much abundant, but it's part of suffering. That's equally bad as if, the guy that is, a billionaire and his children hate him and his wife's cheating with the poor boy and she hates him and all this other stuff. He doesn't really have an abundant life. He's just wealthy. You know what I mean? Well, if you want real wealth, you need 360. You need the whole thing. And there's more abundance in this universe, I'll say it again, on this planet than we can ever experience in one lifetime. So why not? Mm-hmm. It's there. You just have to decide this is what you want and set your intention in that direction and be honest in your openness to receiving it, to finding it, to hearing it, and let that flow take you there. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question. That's a little part. Women play a great big role. Love you ladies. Not trying to whittle it down to like one thing, but in the context of our conversation.
Yeah, yeah, obviously they play a huge role, and I was just curious to hear your take on it because, for me, I've realized that like it's like women just have this like thing where like no matter how much work I feel like I've done on myself, like a woman can just like say one thing or give me one kind of look, and it just feels like none of that shit was anything, and I'm like, oh my god, like I need to be better. I need to be.
Dude, this week I was talking to let's call her an amiguita. In Spanish, your amiga is your friend, your amiguita is like your little friend, like a friendly. And I was like, damn it, what'd you put in my drink? I think having an oxytocin boost. But these things are real, right? And the serotonin, the oxytocin, and the dopamine that you're getting from this interaction, not to mention her feminine energy and perspective. And that, because you and I are living in our masculine energy all day. As connected as we want to be and are to our feminine energy part of our life, we're still guys. And so our most powerful energy, our natural strong point is going to be in this masculine energy. That's how I think, that's how I approach the day. I still hear my girlfriend's voices in my head when they're telling me to love my day now and then, but it's not my inclination. You know what I mean? It's not my first thing. It's something I've added to help balance me out, And so there's nothing like the real thing, right? So when you're around that or you have that connection, there really is an energy transference. I love studying quantum physics and some of the applications of it. I don't like deep dive into the whole scientist part, but I get what I need. I've read quite a few books about it, including Joe Dispenza has had a few, and Bruce Lipton. And right now, between me and you, we're several hundred miles away, different cities. We're literally connected. Like, there are particles between me and you, energetic particles that you can't see because our meat sac was intended to interpret, certain things. And I can't see X-rays, I can't see microwaves, but they're here and they're real. And this particle stream is literally connecting between me and you. Well, when you're in close proximity, your energy fields are actually interacting too, because you're emitting energy and particles from yourself. So when you're around a female like that, you have that connection, that is real, bro. Like there's real physical connection between you at a distance, right? Yeah. And I think, I don't have all the answers as to why this is so amazing. I just know that it is, and I think there's not something that we should ignore. Otherwise, I think there's sometimes, often, maybe even usually, not so desirable outcomes, right? Because you get off balance.
Yeah.
I know I do. I'm going through a version of that now, too, man. Like, it's the fourth quarter of the year. In my brain, that's the fourth quarter of the game. And so I had this tendency to like ratchet up the fourth quarter of the game. Like, it's playoff time. In the playoffs, you cut stuff out. You're not kicking it as much. I put myself in a cave. I came here to Guadalajara. I don't know anybody here. I knew like one, my homie was here that I met in Colombia celebrating his birthday. Then he took off. That was like the first week, Then it's like, all right, I'm going to stick around because if I was in Playa or Cancun or San Cristobal or some other place, I know more people, they're going to invite you to stuff and, they're going to be friends. Well, I'm like, right now, I need to press through to try to reach my goals to the end of the year. Well, long story short, I went to Isla Mujeres about 2 weeks ago and I lived in a teepee on the beach. which was cool. The teepee had a cool factor. But then I realized the teepee didn't have shelves in it. You know, you're kind of roughing it. Well, I've got my suitcase, and I have to live out of that a different way. They have a suitcase rack. So how you access your stuff, my socks and my underwear and my, you know, clothes for the next day and my PJs, because, you know, you're in and out of the suitcase. So I just had to organize it a certain way. And then I realized after, you know, 10 days of that, I'm like, oh, I think this can be more efficient, because typically I would get an Airbnb in Roots for a month at a time or two. And so now I've got my stuff laid out and organized and hung. And that's my normal routine. But living out the suitcase forced me to tighten in a way, almost like adding the discipline. And then at the same time, as the universe tends to do, I meet this girl in a co-working space, and she's telling me how she lives in a dorm room. And she's an adult, not like, you know, some 20-year-old, 25-year-old backpacking around the world. She's like running a company. She's got 2 kids, you know, back in the States. And she's like, yeah, I came down here. I'm living in a dorm room. I love it. I'm like, really? So I'm immediately thinking, I'm too grown for this. And so this kind of goes back to shame, right? And I was like, it's like, no way I could live in a dorm room at, you know, my age. And she goes, yeah, there's plenty of people all ages. And then she tells me her experience. That thing stuck in my head, dude. And when I came back to Guadalajara, it's funny, right? Because I was here already. I left to go to Isla. I came back here. And right before I left, I met this other girl who said, oh, I'm staying in this hostel over here. I saw the hostel. I thought it was in a luxury apartment building. I didn't know it was a hostel. It was really like kind of nice, upscale place. Well, long story short, I booked a room there. And ever since, I've been living in a bunk bed, in the top bunk. So playoff time, my life is very nice and tight. My gym, the places I eat, you know, and I love it. Like, I never thought that I would enjoy living in a dorm. And the more things I cut off, not to mention it doesn't cost me anything. You know, I'm paying like $60 a week to live in this amazing facility. You know, it's got like, you know, private curtains, almost like a train car. You know, it's just a cool place. It's really well done. But I would have never even considered that a month ago. Like, not at all. But the universe brought me this option to, you know, to accomplish my goal. And I think I was telling you earlier, kind of similar to you, I get into playoff mode, but I have kind of neglected my human side. So recently, out of nowhere, because there's no beach here, and the beach is kind of, for me, they answer all things. Like, you don't have to have a plan for the day. The plan is always the same. If there's nothing to do, I'm going to the beach. You know what I mean? You sleep on the beach, you can hang out on there all day. You got the water, you got the salt. It's very like cleansing. It's grounding. You know, you're barefoot out there. It's like doing all the stuff. But now I'm back in the city. I haven't been in a big city for a while. I'm in go mode, playoff mode. I'm working out 2-3 times a day. I'm grinding, you know, 10, 12 hours a day. You know, I can't have this principle. I learned it from a guy named Alex Hermosi. He has a great YouTube channel. Man, this guy gives us so much game that is just, it's business game. Yeah, but he's like, I can't outwork everybody, but I can out-sacrifice anybody. So I focus on cutting things out of my life so that I can move forward. But in doing so, recently, because I didn't have the beach to cover and I guess fill all the gaps, I felt this need for community and connection. And I didn't know if it was like, okay, it's October. I know it's like cuffing season. Mammals tend to do this in the fall. It's about to get winter time. And so I'm like trying to figure out, is this my biology wanting to cuff up? Do I need more community? Like, so I just recently joined this acro yoga group. I've never done acro yoga before. Seemed like a cool way to meet chicks. Great way to work out. They have a robust community that was meeting and flipping each other around in the park. And so, you know, so I'm trying to figure out what this is, but we do have this human component. And I like the fact that you're attuned to it, right? You feel it. You knew something was there and missing. And like, I'm like you, dude. I feel it. My head's down. I'm like, you know what? Block that out for now. Keep doing this. And it's like that thing just kind of keep tapping me on the shoulder. Like, bro, you forgetting about me over here. I need something. Yeah. I'm like, what is this? What do you need? We're focused right now. Holler at me in January. You know, that's not how it works.
Yeah, so I think you might resonate with this. My little catchphrase that I always put at the end of any of my videos or my blog posts or whatever is stay hungry, stay humble. And to me, it's that perfect integration of like, you know, the masculine, just like, I'm going to get what I want. But then at the same time, be like, I'm not Superman, even though you have a Superman costume. You know?
Oh my gosh. Tell me that again. I need to hear more.
We're like
Yes,
Batman,
you're absolutely right.
you know?
Actually, talking about archetypes, Bruce Wayne is one of them. Billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, beating bad guys up in the boardroom and, after hours. Although I'm going to avoid going out and beating them up after hours, but I think we need more of us in the boardroom to fight some of this evil out here.
Definitely.
Different topic.
I love
Yeah,
that.
man. Stay humble, stay hungry.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, and actually, you know where I got that from? Subconsciously, I didn't even know, because it just came to me, and I just started saying it, and I was like, "That it sounds familiar." I was like, "Where have I heard this before?" Randomly, one day, my mom just sends me this video. She's like, "I was thinking of you, sweetie," and it's this video about Steve Jobs giving a commencement speech. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'll send it to you afterwards. It's really good. And he talks about three. He just talks about three of his stories. And I remember as I was watching it, I was like, I watched this when I was like, I don't know, maybe like 17, 18 years old. At the very end of the speech, the final thing he says in the commencement address to all the graduates, is he says, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." And I was like, that's it. That's where I got it from. But of course, I had to put my own little twist to it and everything. But I guess consciously, I didn't even realize that I had been inspired by Steve Jobs in that sense. But it's awesome how it's all just, man, it's all just the information, the knowledge, the wisdom. It's all being recycled and put into practice into what's relevant for us today. And that's why I love it, man. I love how many books you've referenced in just this like past hour. It's just from all
man.
quantum mechanics and Joe Dispenza and all this stuff. It's like, it's so cool, man. It's obvious that you're very well read, and yeah, it's just mind blowing. I'm so.
I do audiobooks, man. Like I just started reading actually when I was in the basement. Dude, I got through high school. I read like one book, I think. And I made like, B pluses and A minus. I did more work. I would go around and ask everybody, I read the summary, I had cliff notes, and then I would ask people questions. I like talking to people. And to the point that I just put the whole story together. I could have just read the book probably, but I didn't feel like I had the focus back then to do it. I couldn't focus long enough. And as I got older, I learned how to turn that into a superpower, to like hyper focus, like ADD techniques that I would use to like, tap into stuff. But I remember being surprised that I could even sit through a book, you know what I mean? But when you strip everything away, you're back living in the basement, you'd be surprised what you can do. But it helped me figure out like, oh, I guess I can read and focus. I mean, clearly I could read. I read for work and stuff, but like for my own self, I never just slow down long enough to do it. But yeah, stay focused, stay humble, stay foolish is the same as being foolish and humility are kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, right.
Like the willingness to be playful and be foolish, to me, that is part of humility.
Yeah, definitely.
The other part, this is maybe off topic a little bit, but I think sometimes people get humility a little bit wrong. They think humility is hat in the hands, head down. I think humility is the opposite, kind of. I think humility is giving glory to the gifts that God gave you. If God made you gifted or good in a certain thing, you have an ability that you can develop and you can give to the world. Real humility is giving glory to God, like being the best at that thing because you can be, or being really good at that thing because you can be, right? And using that gift to add growth to this experience that we're all in together, and telling people like, hey, I was blessed with this so I could bless you. That's humility. It's not like a head down thing. It's like a, hey, look, I can help. I have this thing for you. This gift is free. It's free to me, and I'm giving it for free. And I'm going to develop it. I'm going to do the best I can with it, and try to bless the world with it.
I love that you brought that up because, yeah, I think the exact same thing, man. I think humility is kind of misinterpreted. I think it often has a connotation of like you said, like, oh, like I'm going to be modest about myself and my abilities and my gifts, and it's okay, it's for you. But like, the funny thing is, like, I think about like Michael Jordan. You talked about him, right? Like, probably one of the most cocky people like on the planet, but
oh man,
I think he's incredibly humble, right? And some people might be like, how does that make any sense, right? And it's like, well, it's not about the cockiness, the arrogance. That's kind of like a second order thing. It's more so just like a mask or like a role he's playing. It's kind of for fun. And maybe there's some actual, deep rooted arrogance there. But the only reason he's there is because he has the humility first, right? Like the humility
Yeah.
is sort of the base, because he wouldn't be where he's at without humility. There's no way. No, I don't think
You have to
anybody.
be you have to be coachable. Nothing
Exactly.
else, right? You can't get there without being coachable. That requires humility, letting you speak into my life and show me where I'm wrong. And and you're right, it can look like cockiness, especially in the case of like the Jordan type people in the world. But he's also coming from a place of, dude, I put in the work. And what you gonna score what today? Like George, like it would just get him hyped up. You didn't want this guy hyped up in your direction.
Yeah.
He's gonna come at you.
Well, speaking of gifts, you mentioned, like giving your gifts to the world. Like, what do you feel like is your greatest gift to give to the world?
Oh wow, that's a great question. I don't know if I know the answer to. It's hard for me to pinpoint greatest almost anything because I see things in this range of stuff. So, ask me my favorite movie. I can tell you a few of them. As the greatest rapper of all time, I can put some in that category, but it's tough. But one thing I think I don't know. I'm definitely able to inject energy into people and situations. I suppose that's a gift. I think that it's more like a role in my way, and it's something that I can do and that I enjoy doing. So helping people maybe see things in them that they didn't, and you can color that good or bad. But I'm very honest, and part of my personality type, I hate hypocrisy. And I'll even sometimes argue points that I don't fully like. If I'm not on this side of the argument, I still argue the merits of their argument, right? So this may be true, A, B, C, and D. Now, I do feel like, D, C, E, and F over here is the deciding factor, but I'm not going to throw the baby out with the water. And so I think I have this ability to have this type of clarity, which is why I've been in consulting for a lot of my life and career. I like giving that to people. I think I see from other people my ability to somehow encourage and speak into their life. Like you and I, we met and be like, hey, great to have you on my podcast and talk to my audience about some of the stuff that we had this amazing conversation about. Where before I would never think of that as a gift, but if other people value it, then I guess that's you're blessing somebody. It's literally a gift. It's something that you're giving. So.
Definitely. I think, for me, with the energy that I sense is like, there's certain people that like when I'm around them or I'm just around their energy, like you just kind of feel at ease, that's kind of the energy that you have. It's just like, it just feels like there's not like life is a little bit less serious, it's just a little bit more playful and like everything's cool, but not in like some kind of like hippy dippy, like, oh yeah, it's all love, bro. There's groundedness there too. There's a practicality there too, which is, that's a rare thing to find, to have both. Again, it's like the tree analogy that I love to use, which is like you can only grow as high as your roots are deep. It's rare to find somebody with their head in the clouds and their feet firmly planted on the ground, and not just like being like flying like a leaf blowing in the wind, and not just with their head in the books like a scientist, and doesn't believe in faith or anything above that. What was the moment that you sort of started embodying that and brought those two together?
Oh wow. Man, it's been a journey. So there's been levels of it for a while, but definitely I think I turned it up a notch in the last few years. One, and I started seeing this pattern where people were valuing what I had to offer in a way that I hadn't noticed before. I tell my friends, like my age, I'm 45, like, dude, one day, when did we become OGs? I'm riding the Uber, the guy, I'm talking to the guy driving, he's in school, he's in business school. And I remember just dropping some knowledge, just real quick. He's like, yeah, I was thinking about going into, I don't know, Java programming or something. I was like, oh yeah, that's dope. I did consulting, I work on big packages like PeopleSoft, Oracle, SAP. And I told him just a little game. If you want to get your hourly rate from like $80, $85 an hour to, $150 an hour, work on the big packages. Because I didn't know that, when I was his age, because the big packages are more complex. The big companies hire you, they do these like 6 month, 8 month, year and a half projects where they're paying you, $130, $150 an hour. you know, it's more people programming in Java, and it's not a package, it's a language. You know what I mean? And I was like, he's like, oh man, and like the way he was like grabbing, I was like, dude, I do wish I would have known that back when I was your age, you know? And like you have to have a purposeful, and this is for any age, a purposeful mental approach. And maybe some people don't have this as much, a problem with this as much. But I think I didn't always think I had enough to say yet. You know what I mean? Like I'm still gathering. Well, you can be gathering forever. You know, when are you gonna bless other people? Like just trust the process. If you feel led to help somebody, they ask you, then just kind of be in flow and be honest, right? Don't be hypocritical. Don't be egotistical. Like none of that stuff. Come from a honest place and bless the world. I realized in the basement, another thing too, it was real for me, dude. And it was part of my motivation. It still is. He actually kind of said it in that book, Miracle Morning for Millionaires. Like, when are you going to get the abundance and the freedom and the life that you deserve? Like when? Next year? 10 years? Like, you could have had it yesterday. Like, when are you going to decide that this is the life you want? Like all of the, and because the abundance is out here, the life is out here. And for me, it even hit another level. So I feel like I've had really good people in my life, you know, my grandparents and my parents and, you know, great friends. And I went to, you know, good college and, you know, all this stuff. And it's like coaches and Boy Scouts. And when are you going to repay the people who have believed in you from the beginning? And even saying that right now, it almost like makes me get choked up a little bit. I felt this like real drive to pay them back for their faith that they had in me my whole life. When I was, you know, we all came to this world and we were, for the most part, showered with love, like hugs and kisses, and people fed us, and you know, we couldn't feed ourselves. Like, when are we going to repay? And this is a gratitude practice, which is another huge thing. And when you really think about it, you really have gratitude for this stuff. I feel a calling, like a duty. When are you going to repay the faith and the love that people, not that they ask for payment, you know, but I do. I feel a call. I want them to know that it wasn't wasted on me. You know what I mean? And it drives me when I think about it, and it gets me, you know, a little emotional, to be honest.
That's beautiful, man. I love that, how you're using the desire to repay, and you know, and I know it's not coming from a place of like obligation or anything, but more so just like, yeah, doing your due diligence, and it's like a purposeful thing that you're doing, and you're using that as like as a fuel for your mission. And I think that's very wise, because I know oftentimes for myself, like when I'm just focused on my own goals and I'm the only one that's going to be affected by them, there's sometimes where I just like, it's not enough almost, you know, it's not enough to keep me going in those hard times. Whereas if like,
Yep.
if it was like, oh, I got to do this for my mom or for my sister, like brings a whole other element in. And I'm noticing this pattern where it's like with the way that you structure your life, where it seems like, yeah, you're using like, you're like, yeah, you're like designing your mentality, like in this very like, intentional way, right? Where it's almost like you're hacking your brain a little bit, where like this belief right here will give me the motivation to do this, right? And for this situation, and when it's like, oh, that's not working, what about like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like, you know, or
Yeah.
like,
What do I need to add to it to get there? Yeah, absolutely, sure.
I love that, man. It's you definitely have the word that came to me was like radical open-mindedness, right? Seems like that's a value that you exhibit with the world around you, and that's what's allowed you to get to the place that you're at now and connect all those dots and see the bigger picture. And I resonate with that, because that's definitely one of my biggest values is just having that radical open-mindedness, which I think goes hand in hand with the humility thing that we're talking about.
You just gave away my TED talk. Radical open-mindedness. I love that. I'm going to adopt that into my life. That is actually, I think you're absolutely right. And I think you and I recognize that in each other right away. And that's why we were able to like connect the way we did.
Definitely.
But to me, that's the way to allow maximum growth. And that's what we're here for. We're here to grow and expand consciousness, expand this experience that we're here, and bless the world. You can't do that without radical open. Anywhere you're not being radically open-minded, you're probably holding that back a little, right? And so we've all got our journey and levels, but I would encourage anybody to start to really deep dive those and investigate them and see, you know, don't let your fear, because that's anything holding you back is going to whittle down to that lowest common denominator. Don't let that hold you back from life and life more abundantly. Why wouldn't you want more abundance? Even if it's in that area that you think is scary, if you allow yourself to be open, you can experience abundance there as well, right? And basically, I'm trying to think of an example where you don't either diminish or completely remove the fear that was there to start with. Like that fence will move. So there's another electric fence over here. You're going to touch that again, but it will move, you know, and allow you to have more abundance.
Love that, man. So yeah, there's this thing like that I've been dealing with now is that for the first time in my life, I feel that I actually have a good grip on my emotions and on myself. And I finally understand that like, it's really about staying in this channel that you were talking about earlier. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, I've been able to sustain this state now for like, maybe like a couple months. Right. But during like the first month, I was just like completely in this channel. And I was like, yo, I am on fire. Like, this is like a new level of reality and living I've never experienced before. And then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, I fall off that channel and it feels like the whole world comes crashing down. And then I'm like, man, fuck all that shit. Like none of that works. Like all this emotion, like it was all bullshit. Like that, you know, and then I come back and then I'm like, oh man, I was being so arrogant and ignorant and like, no, it's all about love and surrender. And then I fall off again and I go into that same thing. I'm like, no, fuck surrendering, man. Like, you know, like why the hell am I not getting what I want in life? And so I just want to ask you, because I think a lot of people fall into this pattern. And honestly, I don't think you ever will escape it, right? This is like kind of just the pattern of life that you'll just never try to like walk the balance beam, right? But like the moments where you fall off, like how do you deal with that? Like how do you remain having faith in those dark moments? And then how do you like shift yourself back into the channel as quickly and efficiently as possible?
Oh man, great question. So this is multi-layered. There's a few things that I do. One, it helps if you recognize your patterns and your triggers. So the more you know you, like I did a ton of personality tests, like not just from, you know, all the modalities, Myers-Briggs and, you know, all the stuff, but also like how the world sees me. Like what energy am I giving off? I took personality tests around that to see like here's my me ball that I can work with and what my weaknesses are and strengths, and then try to understand the triggers, right? So, you know, when this is off in my life or this area is off, this effect happens because I don't always know what's going on. I can usually see the effect though. And then I have to work backwards and say, oh yeah, some of them I already know, some of them I don't know, right? And then you have to kind of work backwards. And then that's the other part, the constant kind of seeking and trying. Like I said, I just joined the acro yoga club because I've had this, I still kind of have this thing. This actually don't start until tomorrow. I just met with the group yet to start the workouts. But okay, there's something going on, like this need for community, or I had a girlfriend, one of my friends I told you about, she calls and we're talking and she goes, no, what are you doing for companionship? And at first I almost scoffed, like, companionship? What? I'm in playoff mode. What are you talking about? You know, and she's like, no, this is important. And immediately I knew it. I was like, she's so right. I don't have time for this right now. Like, again, that thing is still in my brain. I don't have time for this right now. But she's absolutely right. And so I'm trying to find out in different ways. So being open, kind of, you know, knowing where you are. Again, some of this is state management. What state am I in? What state do I want to be in? And then there's also some things you can do in the short run. You know, anytime you change your physiology, you're going to change your psychology. Your brain is part of your body. And I really got deep into that in the basement. they have a lot of science and information now around, like, if you're going to do something scary, like people that do the Superman pose or they do the Wonder Woman pose, the hands on the hip thing for 2 minutes before you do a speech, before you do anything that might give you anxiety. And, there's a lot of good info out there you can find on that. For working out, like I said, I kept my endorphins high doing that. There's a guy so there are different coaches kind of that I will listen to depending on what I feel like I need that day. So for instance, Gary Vaynerchuk, who's like the yell at you kind of coach, right? He's like kind of get your shit together, you're gonna miss the boat kind of guy. He's that. He's like the beanie wearing startup version of that. And then you've got the next layer up, I would consider like David Goggins, right? World's toughest man, Navy SEAL, start, get your punk ass up and do these pull-ups kind of guy, you know what I mean? He's like, no excuses, that thing. There's another guy, kind of above that sometimes, and I like him a lot. It's funny, if you haven't heard of his name, is Wes Watson. And he's what you call a prison influencer. He did 10 years in California State Prison.
Wow.
He's like freaking massive. He's got all these tattoos. And the lessons that he learned about spirituality and stuff. Now, he has a hard edge, like in his language, but you can't reach everybody with, you need these different channels to be able to reach everybody. But the lessons that he learned, I'm like, how does this guy figure this out in prison? Like in the most, you get murder and the dead people around them doing dead stuff and hurting each other and hurting themselves. And you came out with these lessons. And a lot of it was through not just reading and studying, but also changing your physiology. And so I thought about it like, man, I did that in the basement. He took that to level 100. They warm up with 50 sets of 10 burpees or 10 sets of 50. That's the warm up.
Damn.
Dude, if you flood your brain with that kind of endorphin rush, I can't imagine. Like, you'd be in prison, like thinking you're having the best day ever. Like, you know what I mean? It's just part of it. So you can power through some of these things and get more clarity, like with physiology type changes. And then you've got, I think meditation can be I know people talk about it a lot. I do like breath work. I use the Headspace app, but that also helped me tap into, not only give me distance between my circumstances and situations in my mind. It's like the difference between being in a storm versus being in the house and looking at the storm, right? So it changes how you react, how you move, how you feel, because you start to observe thoughts. It bleeds into your life. But it also helped me tap into kind of what we were talking about earlier about this power center. Not to go too far off topic, but I think it's valuable. And guys, you want to know, I didn't feel like I could hold an image in my head when I was a kid. And so when they tell you to visualize your future and, visualize this stuff, I just couldn't hold that in my mind. My brain moves too fast. And as I got older, it started to, grow. And, I've been on a 20-year personal development quest, maybe longer. Just always trying to get better and just wanting to learn and do more. And at some point, I revisited that idea, which I did a lot of that in the basement when I was doing belief change. It's like, oh, well, if I can read and study and deep dive into books and actually enjoy it, well, what else can I do? And I just keep asking that question. And when it came to meditation, I did the same thing. I was like, well, maybe this can help me visualize better. And they have a great, a 2 or 4 week program in Headspace app. And every day he takes you through, and he starts off, instead of visualizing the image, it's much easier to visualize a feeling. So imagine you're standing in warm sunlight. Everybody knows what that feels like, and the sun's on your head and the sun's on your shoulders, and they're walking you through it. And over a few weeks, they're changing that sunlight to it's pouring over you, like somebody pouring water. You can feel the sunlight pouring over you, and then it's like filling you up from the feet up. It's filling your body with this warm sunlight, and it's really cool. Before you know it, you've got this ball of light. And he keeps it pretty secular. He doesn't call them chakras, but you're moving this ball of light up and down your energy centers, and you pop it out the top of your head. And dude, the first time I did that, I was like, dude, you can feel it like a light bulb. Your hair's tingling and it's warm. And, you've got this ball of light up top of your head. Well, fast forward, I started playing around with that. And I say this because, you got a guy audience and you guys may want to know, there's no shortcut to doing the work. And, one side effect I kind of had from doing that and being curious and being open, I'd heard this concept from Taoism. and you see professional athletes breathe from their bellies all the time. And there's a concept in Taoism about semen retention. And I was kind of already doing that because I was in the basement, and breathing into your balls. These were kind of two different things that came together. The universe gave me both of these concepts. And so breathing into your balls felt a lot like when I would move that energy up and down, and it was in my like sacral center. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. But I also want to know, okay, this is great. And I think it's awesome, but how great? Like, is it just for me? Is it something other people can feel? Is it just real to me, or is it real? Like, I always want to know. So one day I'm on a date with this girl, and I'm sitting on the back of a couch. It's like a lounge, right? And my feet are in the couch. She's between my legs. And, there's music playing, and, it's a lounge. It's kind of like a club. And so it's too loud for me to like meditate and find that spot. But because I could breathe into my balls, I could find it that way, right? And so I was like, all right, let me see if this power is real. Instead of popping it out top of my head, I'm going to throw it at her, see what happens. Dude, I shit you not. I breathed, and I like put my finger on her chin. I reached around, turned her head toward me, and leaned in so I could close my eyes and give her a kiss. And so that's like our first kiss. So I just like off guard, just kind of move her around. I gave her a kiss. And of course, we had been building rapport and stuff the whole night. But when I closed my eyes on the exhale, I projected this energy at her. Dude, she jumped off the couch. And she goes, what was that? What did you just throw at me? Don't be throwing your energy shit over here. What kind of Jedi mind trick was that? And dude, my eyes must have been like saucers. I'm like, oh my God, this is real. This is real. Not just real to me, not that that's not beneficial, but this is a real energy power. And fellas, I can tell you, off topic, on topic, if you can make her feel things she's never felt before, she's gonna like you. So I started playing around with this energy in that way. But I should warn you too, though, because I didn't have any mentors or, nobody like telling me, I'm just trying to bless the world and going out and giving. And it can also have like kind of negative effects sometimes to people too, right? I left and go to a different country, it might feel like a withdrawal, right? Now, what you meant to be a blessing is, kind of causing a little bit of dismay. So you need to be careful too, but it's very powerful stuff, bro.
Definitely. I mean, if you have somebody who's willing to receive it, I'm sure it's fine. But when people are not as receptive to it, it can definitely like love can actually be like too much sometimes, if people are not ready to receive that kind of love.
Oh yeah, they can't. It's almost like toxic if you're not ready. They'll fight it. They'll even call you names like, oh, they won't be able to accept it from you. They'll do anything to keep it off of them, right? So everybody's got to do their own work, right? Everybody has to like clear their issues, do their work, and be ready to receive any kind of blessing that's coming from the universe. But as a single guy, I think it's important, not only, in the context of what we're talking about, but you were talking a little bit about your past and, like the validation or even like the sexual interactions that we would have with women. Well, I'm going around pumping girls full of this energy, and it's really, I found out later, a tantric thing, right? And so, but if you're kind of spewing it everywhere, and like you said, some people aren't necessarily ready to receive that, or they don't know, right? They haven't done the work, and now they get it because you guys are in a sexual relationship, and if she can't handle it, it'll come out in bad ways, right, for her. And that's not my intent, right? That's not what I intended to happen. So you really do have to kind of listen to spirit, like when and when not to, and how,
Definitely. You mentioned semen retention and like, the nofap thing and all that. And to me, I equate that a lot with like life force, like the sexual energy, the libido. I think in Jungian sort of psychology, and also like Freudian and stuff, is this concept of like the libido and being connected to the sexual energy and all that. And so I'm curious, like, what role has semen retention played in your life in the context like of actually having sex with women? Like, have you experimented with that, and what have been the results?
Oh yeah. Oh, dude. I was talking to a buddy of mine about this the other day because we're about to hit November, and No Shave November Somehow it became No Nut November. I thought I invented it. And apparently it's like a thing, you know? And it just occurred to me one day as I was playing around with this energy, and because that Taoism principle that I briefly touched on, I think the way it actually goes is for a man, you should take your age minus 9 divided by 7, right? And so basically, for me, it was like every 12 days, 11 days, something like that. So that means don't release to optimize, right? It was saying that you should release like no more than every 11 days in my case. Well, the NoFap community would take that as, not having sexual activity. Well, I know that all creative energy is libidinal. He talks about this in Think and Grow Rich. Like your libido, that's your mojo center. That's where your creative force comes from, right? So what if again, what's this useful for? What else can I do with this? It's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, how can I up that and enhance it? If in Think and Grow Rich, he talks about sexual transmutation and how a lot of men waste their sexual libidinal energy, right? We all have been guilty of it. And when you're constantly releasing, think about it. You have an orgasm, you ejaculate, and then you immediately have an energy come down. The woman's pumped up. Their bodies work a little different. So for her, it's energetic. For us, we go into like a little semi-hibernation. And so you can be kind of like mulled out and low and, that feeling after. Well, if you retain that, you keep that energy, just like in breathing into that energy center, and you can feel the ball of light, you'll grow this like ball of energy, this power. And they actually see it, right? So walking down the street or being outside, if you've been retaining semen, you've got something extra, and that I don't know if it's pheromonic or what it is, but women will notice, guys notice too, because they respond to you different too. It's like men kind of pay homage in a different way. We kind of respect the leader, like that kind of thing. Where women are looking like almost like admiration. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he, for lack of a better term, he's a boss. You know what I mean? But I started getting that more and more.
I want to get it out of you too. I sense it's like they want to be the ones to make you break.
They want to break it. That's exactly what I was talking to my buddy about. I was like, dude, if you tell him that you're doing No Nut November, I sent him this little meme of this girl like, okay, we'll see about that. You know what I mean? They're definitely going to challenge you. But dude, it's like the meme I sent him back was Thor when the lightning was going through, because I literally felt like I had lightning in my veins. And in fact, it's very, very important that if you are semen retaining and having sexual activity, both, so not semen retention without, but you can definitely do that. You need to do this either way. But if you're going to have sex and you're retaining and you're not going to release, or you're releasing on a schedule, which I would recommend, because after a while you'll feel some energy dips if you don't. Dude, you need to transmute that. Or it can come out in negative ways. You can be an aggressive asshole. Like I had times where I couldn't sleep at night. Like it was just in me, and I had to transmute it. I had to learn how to transmute this energy, and I'm still learning. Like I'm still finding new ways, and always looking for information on how to transmute this better. Because if you retain it, you're going to have it. You're going to feel it. It's going to feel like lightning in your body, like this power in your body. And you need to do something with it. You can't if it just stays in you, then, it should flow.
Circuits a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it could, like for real. Like we're meant to flow, right? So you need this to flow. You need to put it somewhere. Put it into a project, put it into a business, put it into a new language, put it into the gym, put it into a creative endeavor, but put it somewhere, do something with it. Put it into even a spiritual practice, and maybe, play with that. Because I've definitely like transmuted energy and taken it with me into an environment and use that to attract people, like girls, clients. I've 100% done that. And every guy most guys pretty much implicitly kind of know this or have seen the effect of it. You notice that if you get a girlfriend, or if you just had sex with a girl, other chicks are like responding, right? If you're retaining energy, it's a multiplication factor. You just get more of that power to deal with and more of that to use. But once you release that power, it goes back down. Like it may not leave totally, but for a temporary while, yeah, it's gone. And so then you have to recover and get back into it. I want to take that power into my day and, add these little extras in there, like Michael Phelps that can help you be more effective.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing all this, bro. I mean, I'm just, there's so many questions I want to ask you. I just want to check in with you and just see how you're doing with time and, how much longer.
Good. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
Great, man. Awesome. Well, so we've talked a lot about women, but I want to know a little bit more about your personal story with like relationships, right? So not just dating and attracting, but because this is actually an area where I lack experience. Is my longest relationship has been 2 years, and that was when I was like in high school. Since then, my longest relationship hasn't lasted longer than like 9 to 12 months, really. And a lot of that was like sabotaging stuff and stuff that I was working through. But I recall you saying from our conversation that you've been in like 4-year-long relationships, or at least one of the relationships was like that. And so, what was like the most important lesson you learned from that experience of going deep with one person like that?
Oh man, I don't know if I'm a great example in that way. Everybody has their strengths.
I know you said with the greatest, most important. How about just one of the examples comes to mind?
I mean,
I'm going to close this really quick. My roommates are singing some songs right now. I don't know if you can hear it or not.
I can't. I don't hear anything.
You can, you said?
I cannot.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear anything.
Well, just in case.
I mean, I've definitely picked up things from my female relationships, right? I learned things from them, like I was talking about earlier, about, enhancing kind of my feminine side or finding things in me I didn't know. Because there's always if you hear multiple things from people who don't know each other, particularly if they're at different points in your life, and they're telling you the same thing, you either exuding that or that's you need to like recognize like what's going on. And so I've had I remember back in the day, I had a few girlfriends long term and said, dude, you've got two modes. You've got happy and furious. And first, over time, you're like, oh, maybe I need to work on this, right? So maybe things like that. But as far as like relationships, I have been in several long-term relationships, and I don't feel like, though, that's my strength. I'm definitely a hunter. So if you look at my personality type, I worked on Wall Street for a while. They did big $10,000 personality test. They only hire you for a role that you're built for. And they hired me to be a sales hunter. Well, hunters are very different from farmers. My father's a farmer, where he take you to the barbershop every week and he was at all your games and like he's nurturing and building. You know what I mean? That's a farmer kind of thing. I'm tip of the spear. I'm going to get in, and then I prefer to kind of like, keep moving forward kind of thing, And so we all tend to lean on what we're naturally inclined to, not saying that's a good thing. And so even when I was in a long-term relationship, in some ways, although I enjoyed them at a point, and then at some point, it didn't work out typically, I think I did learn to like not stay in so long. My habit is staying in too long. So I was in, I had four-year relationship with my college girlfriend. I had maybe 2 after that, that were like 4 years, and then a 1-year relationship. Then the rest in between were all just like, shorter stints or whatever. And one thing I learned is when I'm in, because I know I'm not perfect, I tend to give a whole bunch of chances, a whole bunch of leeway for kind of a lot of stuff. Like, because I feel like until I feel like I've given everything I can give, I've done the best I can do here, I can walk away with no problems, no guilt. Like, assuming I like love that person and I want to be with them. Now, if I'm tired of the relationship, that might be a different thing, but I can't even think of an example where that happened. If I'm with you long term, I want to be with you. And I was probably there for too long. You know what I mean? Because, as long as I feel like you're trying, then I keep trying. And that has kept me in places longer than I probably felt like I should have been. But again, it was in a way, so I learned from it all and ultimately made me better. But I don't know if I'm a great example of like long-term relationships. I just hang in there, man. That's kind of my grandparents were married for 50 something years. My parents have been married now at this point almost 50 years. And my mom always says, yep, I wasn't going to leave. He wasn't going to leave. One of us would have had to take the kids. It would have been a lot of work. And so you end up like working it out. You know what I mean? And they have a great, like, loving relationship. And I've seen other versions of this in parts of my family that weren't loving, and they were just together forever and probably shouldn't have been. You know what I mean? So, but if you have that factor, you know, it's not all roses and all that good stuff. To that point, though, that's part of the reason why I don't really date a whole lot now, and I'm not really in a relationship like that now. I've just started to kind of dabble a little bit, maybe, but I really haven't had time for it because I felt like I spent, 40 years. I did my best effort, and now, the best version of me that I can give to the world is, my bachelor type focus, and I can deep dive into whatever I feel like I need to. I don't have to worry about where we're going to be together and travel and do all this stuff. But that's not without sacrifice, right? And to be honest, I don't think it is good long term forever. It's just the season that I'm in now because I'm in building mode, right? I think the world is changing. A lot of us should be focused on building, and we'll reap those rewards when we get there.
So how do you like in this process of like, I know you're saying not dating a ton, but women are in your life and you do someday. How do you like frame the situation for the woman so that they don't feel like taken advantage of or like led on or anything like that? Like, what is your process with that? And how much really of that is your responsibility and how much of it is the woman's responsibility?
Man, this is a great question. It's something I'm dealing with now because I'm actually getting better at actually having a process and dealing with it. Before, I didn't deal with it at all. Again, they kind of know me. I lived a life of a billionaire playboy philanthropist. And so, I come in, I kind of bless their life when I'm there. We have deep connections for sure, with, a few of them. And, but they also know, I'm probably not good long term, at least not right now, because I don't have that interest, that dedication, that drive, that want to be in there. So, close, but not like too. Everybody has to find their rhythm. And there's some guys in the red pill kind of MGTOW community that I think we call it spinning plates. Like, if you're spinning plates, like the guys doing magic with spinning basketballs, and then you spin that one, and you got another one, you got like all these balls spinning on your head, like that kind of concept. So, and that's great for me, especially right now, because I find that when I'm attached to someone deeply, it can pull me off my center, right? Because I look at my parents, like I make fun of them, like, you guys are individuals, you're us now. You know what I mean? Like you're finishing each other's sentences and all this stuff. They've been together longer than they've been apart at this point. And so instead of doing that, I think my best way to bless the world is to be unified me and deep dive into that until I feel a calling for something different, I think. But
so is there a sense of like a conscious detachment or space that you like exhibit in the relationship in order to like not fall into that?
No, I think that's unhealthy. So I'm 100% me. And then if I feel like I need to take space, which I usually don't because my lifestyle has it built in. Even when I was in the United States, I did consulting. So I flew out every week. I just wasn't there all the time. So it gave me that natural thing. But if we revisit this conversation a little bit, I have a girlfriend that we're going to have a conversation soon, and she created a pussy policy. So her whole brand is building, taking out shame around sex and sexuality for women and being able to fully, let your libido energy flow and be the best version of you that way. And I get it because women often have a lot more to deal with in that area, it seems like. And so one of the things she came up with because of our relationship, she goes, and just to tell you, she had been in a lesbian relationship 5 years prior to meeting me. So she went from that to, kind of being by herself for a good long while. And then she meets me, like this super masculine guy that's like, butterflying. And she even says, like, you're not going to come over here and drop off some dick, no. Like you got, like we need to talk about this pussy policy and like really dig into, what this means and how we're going to interact. And it inherently makes a lot of sense to me because anything that you don't plan for, like, it'll plan for you, essentially. And so in the interest of having better relationships is better for your life, better for your business. It's less destructive, right? And so if you're doing your own inner work, because we all have our habits and patterns, right? And you tend to get back into dating the same people you used to date. And if that's a destructive pattern, you're going to keep moving that forward. I like mapping out like, hey, here's the things I need. Here's what I value, right? And here's the things I don't really tolerate. For me, it's not my thing. And so her and I've heard about this policy, and she's much better at mapping this stuff out. It's her gift. So I'm looking forward to like hearing what this policy is. And another friend of mine just finished a book that maybe the universe is calling me to read because I've literally heard about it 5 times in the last month from different sources, from the internet. But it's called The Ethical Slut. And in have you heard of this book?
I have. I actually was about to read it, but I actually read a different one called More Than Two. But I've heard they're similar. The More Than Two talks about polyamory and goes into communication and stuff. But I have heard of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add that one to my list. More Than Two. But yeah, the same thing, and like kind of radical honesty and openness and communication. Because I tend to default to communicate what I feel like needs to be communicated, but not in the spirit of holding things back. It doesn't really occur to me. So a proactiveness in doing it would kind of overcome that. It's a system that I could build to overcome a weakness.
Definitely. Yeah, man. I love how like when you have a problem or you have something you don't know, like you'll actually just go be like, okay, what do I need to do to learn this? You're not just going to stick around and be like, I guess there's no answer.
No, I think we all default to that in some way, but I really try not to. Like, no, you're the master of your universe, right? You can make heaven or hell on this earth for you, and that it is viewed out, and that affects everybody in your life. Heaven or hell for your family, heaven or hell for your brothers and sisters, your coworkers, your children, etc.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, with the speaking of like the ethical slut and this book More Than Two, I feel like they're probably very similar. And it's funny because like in the book, at the time I read it because my last like real girlfriend, we wanted to have like an open relationship and explore like polyamory and stuff like that. So I was like, man, I need to do some diving into this to see like what even is this community like and what are the foundations, right? Because I knew I was going to struggle with this already, like with jealousy and things of that nature, But what was so fascinating about the book was that it literally like all the stuff that was being said was just like stuff that like any normal monogamous relationship like needed, right? It was like,
yeah,
these things was like an afterthought. It was like, yo, this is just like the structure, like communication. Like that was like the biggest one was just communication and total honesty, right? And of course, that's like in a monogamous relationship is necessary. So in your own life, have you dabbled into this world of openness and polyamory, and how has that turned out for you?
Yeah, in different ways. So I kind of one of those long-term relations that I had, they were overlapped. I had 2 girlfriends. They weren't involved with each other, but they knew about each other. And I was dating them for like 4.5 years, at one point. And I was traveling, so it was a good workout, good setup for me. And then for a while, I lived in Las Vegas, and I tried to dabble into these kind of official polyamory and like swinger communities. I didn't particularly like them, and I'm sure each one's different because I didn't like the feeling. First of all, they have their own rules and like dynamics that didn't feel natural to me. They didn't feel like. I remember going to a party, one of the first ones, and my girlfriend was like, "No, don't look at it. That's like an invite." I'm like, "I can't look at somebody? Like, I don't know the rules to this game." Like, I like the regular world where I understand like regular human dynamics. You know what I mean? And so I didn't know all the rules, and then I didn't like. Frankly, my girlfriend is super hot, and so I felt like guys I wouldn't normally have been cool with for any particular reason. Like we're trying to at least act like they were my friend, but they really were doing it because they wanted to fuck my girl. So I didn't like the dynamics of that world. I'm much more like real life environments and not really attached to a community, but I'm open to, I'm sure each one has a different personality. But these guys would go out together all the time, and they were, like a big group of friends that, kind of thing. So, and I didn't really need that at that time. This wasn't my friend group per se.
Yeah.
So, and outside of that, I've even structured or even seen where, I'm attracted to this girl and I had a relationship with her. And then that one had a relationship with her. And then I know them both very well. I think they would really be great friends together. And, sometimes the female, because they're working through jealousy and issues too sometimes. Sometimes they've been open to that, and sometimes they weren't. And one time they even met, they didn't know that I knew both of them, and they actually met, and then they showed up together like, oh my God, I met this amazing girl at this place. I'm like, oh, hey. I'm glad you're here because I wanted you both to come by. Like I literally was trying to like put them together. They energetically connected before they even got to meet me. So and on the same day that I was like, I called both of them through like, hey, I want you to meet somebody. And then they had already met like earlier that day. So it kind of dabbled in it in different ways and played with it. I'm very, I think it's tough. Like if you could find the right configuration, I think it's perfect. If you could find the right group of people that are, loving and supportive to each other, this could be amazing, and it's probably more work, right? You can't, as guys, we tend to often be, we like to take it easy, man. And like I'm putting in work all day, but anything that's worth having, you got to put work in, right? So, now you've got two or more people in your life and, you got to put that work in separately and together. So you have to get everything that comes with it, right? You can't take out just the good parts or whatever. You get it all. So we recognize that.
Speaking of that, like, how do you personally deal with jealousy?
In me or in them?
In yourself.
Oh, good question. I don't have a lot of it, but I had a little bit of that recently kind of pop up, and I was shocked because I'm like, where'd that come from? And like, oh, oxytocin again. Freaking oxytocin kicking in. But I always try to.
Earlier that I wrote down because I liked it so much. It was like an endorphin pop.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I always try to check myself, dude, because I don't like not feeling great. Like nobody does, right? And so it's like, look, why are you feeling this way, right? Because if I'm being jealous, which is not inherently me, I'm probably not doing something for me. Like the answer is always within. It's always you. Like if you really are the master of your domain, if you really believe in the law of attraction, like you can't make excuses. Anything you put a but after, like I would do this but, or I would but, like you're literally making room for the thing that you put after the but, like literally. And so when it comes to jealousy, like I have to take full responsibility and try to figure out why. Am I not, okay, let's take the current example. Am I not connected to community enough? Am I feeling like, say, my partner has a partner or something and they're always spending time together and I've chose to work all the time, cut myself out, I'm not in community. It's like, oh, they're having all the fun and I'm not. Like, where's this coming from and why? And so I always try to bring it in and figure out what's going on with me. And I never really address their jealousy at all, to be honest. If I have to, I will, but I still take full responsibility. And I learned this from a guy named Craig Beck. Craig Beck's phenomenal, by the way. He's a hypnotist and he used to be a radio guy. He's got audiobooks in Audible. And he has one on deep inner game. And you think it's about game, and it is, it's inner game, but it's really about you, right? When he's talking about inner game. Guys who probably downloaded, because it's about kind of pickup artists, and he's done all that for sure. But he goes deep into the inner game part, and that's most of the book. That's 95% of the book, because that's the part that is real, and you are creating your reality. If you don't take radical responsibility for your reality, like who can? Nobody. Like it's really up to you, dude. And so when you have that, though, it completely changes changes your dynamic. You don't have to be jealous. You can decide if something is good or bad for your life. Like this doesn't work for me. my needs aren't being met in some way. And okay, how can I meet these needs? And what's going on? And it makes you take these inner questions that you're not projecting on them and looking for them for your happiness.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that's very admirable, man. That full radical self-responsibility, I think, is definitely the key to any of that stuff. And it's good that you're not pointing fingers and, because I used to do that a lot, man. That was really tough with my last relationship, is like, oh, it's this person or something, It's like, that feeling arose within me, right? So I have to, where did that come from?
Yeah, and we talked about the shadow. Like, jealousy is there for a reason. It's part of that shadow that we want to call it bad, but it's not. It's part of you. So hug your shadow, ask them what it needs. You know what I mean? And then figure out which way you need to go from there. It's kicking up for a reason. Why? Why are you having a fit right now, shadow? Like, why are you feeling jealous? Why are you, what's going on? Do we need to talk? Let me stop and address this real quick.
I want to ask you an interesting question that just came to mind. How has your capacity to endure pain and suffering changed and evolved over time?
Oh, you asked me earlier about one of my superpowers. I think that's one of them. Almost to a flaw that I had to adjust the other way, because I will flog myself for no reason. Like in the business sense, so I was telling you, you haven't earned it yet. You're suffering for no reason. But my ability to endure it has definitely grown. It's like discipline, right? The more you do it, the more you can do it. And this is really a superpower. If you can do the hard stuff that isn't necessarily enjoyable, whether that be studying, learning a programming language, learning an actual language, like anything that's difficult. This is a prime, it's a superpower. This is how you tap into it. I think, and I'm going to paraphrase, I feel like, I want to say Socrates, but I think he was a Stoic philosopher, or Ben Franklin, who's also a Stoic, by the way. But they said, all of man's problems could be solved, basically, if he could learn to be okay being bored. Because your brain's always seeking novelty. It wants a way out. It wants away from pain. It doesn't like pain. And so I do little practices to again, practice for the game, right? One of them I got from Tony Robbins, right? He jumps into a cold tank every morning, takes a cold shower. And I realized that I'm not actively taking cold showers every day, but for a while, usually at the beginning of the year, I do 6 months of something to set my tone, right? Or as long as I feel like I need to do it. And for a while, that was cold showers. And every day, it didn't matter. I had done 5 months straight without missing a day. Every day, my brain was going to say, dude, point proven. You've already done this. You don't have to take a cold shower today. What are you trying to prove? We know we're tough. We know we can do it. And that's exactly why you should do it. And the same thing I would apply, like now I do intermittent fasting. I eat once a day. I've been working out more, so I've kicked it up a little bit. I have protein shake, like a second meal. But I can now sit with my hunger. It's okay, because your brain's telling you you're starving, but you're not starving. Now, who's in control, right? And this is important, these two things together and other things you can do, because when you can't lie to your subconscious, right? You can't lie to the inner you. It knows your intention is why you have to be 100% honest all the time, not just in your words, but also in your intent to not deceive. But you also need to have practice for when things come up in life, you can handle them. So if I get an injury or if I get sick, my shoulder hurts, whatever, and I tell my shoulder to heal, it knows we're going to heal. It knows I mean business, because I've made it take cold showers, something it didn't want to do. I made it sit with hunger, something that it didn't want to do. And I heard Tony Robbins one time kind of say that in an interview. They said, well, you're the guru guy. How do you deal with crisis? He's like, I really don't have those. Not because I'm, some guru guy, but because I practice for them. So when they come up, I'm ready because I've been practicing already. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. But it's not a lot of ways that I know of to practice these kind of internal things. But these two methods in particular, cold showers and intermittent fasting, and kind of being okay with being hungry. And it eventually goes away normally. Now, sometimes your body's really telling you it needs nourishment. But most of the time, for most of us, that's not what's going on. We're eating on a schedule. We're being pushed around by our desires. And my desires need to know who's boss, like same as your shadow. So I use that stuff to practice for that game and kind of be ready.
So you're proactive with the intentional with self pain in a way, where it doesn't lead to necessarily masochism or anything, and that helps you be prepared for the pain in the future.
Yeah, I definitely too. Just my personality. I think I get something back from feeling tough. I would call myself anti-fragile, not tough, but definitely anti-fragile, because I don't think fragility is a positive trait, right? Vulnerable, yes. I think vulnerable is actually a strength, right? To be open and to be vulnerable, but to be fragile. And so you can choose not to be fragile. You can choose not to let things like completely, break you, kind of, right? And a lot of that is like mentality. Well, it's not just mentality; it's also practice. What have you done to challenge that directly? And so I look for these little outlets. I think a little one I started doing years ago. I haven't done it in a while because of our current world. I would go to haunted houses. I liked them because they were fun. But one day I realized, wow, this would be a great like business to have these kind of, because you're not really in any danger, right? But you have to proceed through this place that's scary, but you're not in danger, but it feels like you are. So it's great practice because we live in such a safe world in general today. There's no lions jumping out. You got some threats out here for sure. But where do you get to like practice and hone this thing where you can face danger and continue to move forward? And one day, one year I went to like 17 haunted houses in a month around the country. And it just occurred to me like, wow, this is great practice for that game. I think roller coasters in some way kind of do that, especially if you're on the front row. And I remember I was in a Six Flags commercial, and I was on the front of the roller coaster, and we rode a roller coaster like 18 times, dude, while they were filming and taking photos. Yeah, at the end, it was like light work. It was nothing. But, the first couple times you're like, oh, my goodness, this is nuts. And then you're like, oh, yeah, let's do it again. That's fine. And so I recognize you can start to build capabilities by putting yourself in painful, stressful situations, particularly if they're safe.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I resonate with cold showers as well. But again, like you said, sometimes it's like you take it it's just that dance, man, that dance between staying hungry and staying humble and not just always, not just totally just being in the masculine. That's the struggle. I've actually been taking some warm showers recently, especially when I feel like I'm like down or I'm having like a tough time with stuff. Like it's nice to give myself like some self-care, some self-love. And I feel very nurtured by myself instead of having like the iron fist just come down on me and be like, no, you got to do this no matter how you're feeling. Like,
yeah. Again, everything's balanced, right? Like if there's too much of that thing, then for most people, they may need that. But for you, you need the other direction, right? Because you have to like balance out for you. So I try to keep that in mind. By the way, cold showers in San Cristobal is hardcore, bro. Like I was taking cold showers in Tulum and Playa del Carmen, where, it's hot outside. The water doesn't even get that cold. Yeah. The cold shower in San Cristobal, it's not like cold shower in Chicago, but it's fresh.
Something I realized, it's interesting. It's like, I noticed that like if the water has to be cold enough for me to like want to get in there. If it's in this like area where it's not that cold, I actually don't enjoy it because it's not cold enough to really just be like, but it's just like uncomfortable, and I'm so extreme with things that like I'd be more inclined to do it when it's freezing than in that weird in-between space.
Interesting. I may have to, maybe my showers haven't been cold enough lately. I don't know.
Ideally, I mean, like I would do it like Tony Robbins. When I get my own place, my own setup, I definitely want to get one of those cold plunges. That's the way to go. Cause I mean, the something about the shower too. It's like, it's not getting your whole body. And if you just go, you're in there, Wim Hof is like pioneer of this whole field with, the Iceman and stuff. That's where I got a lot of this stuff from. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, dude. In fact, in San Cristobal, I was able to develop a little Wim Hof practice. Like I've taken, it takes me sometimes a while to establish a real habit on some stuff. So I tried it a few times, but not like with any discipline. And when I was there, I got into a pattern where I would do a morning yoga routine, and then which I had done plenty of times. But then I added to it right after yoga would be Wim Hof breathing and cold shower. And it just after 30 days of that, it's like, oh, I actually look forward to it. And so it's pretty great. I want to get up to doing it like a half hour so I can release DMT from my pineal gland. I haven't done that yet.
It's a trip. I mean, it's kind of like holotropic breathing when you start doing it for that long, which is a practice that's similar to like the Wim Hof, but I think it was developed. I can't remember the name of the guy, but it was like one of the scientists that used to like study with LSD, and he used to actually be like one of psychologists like that would like see the effects. But then once LSD was like banned, like made illegal, he wanted to replicate the same effects, the same positive effects that he was having on his clients. And so he created this breathing exercise called holotropic breathing, where it's just the same thing as Wim Hof, except it's a little bit slower paced, and it's for like 30, 45 minutes. Like it's for a long time. And apparently, like when you do that, all this subconscious like shadow stuff starts to come out after you get into those deep states, and it's like a purge. And they'll do it with like all these they'll have like ceremonies where they'll like guide people through it, obviously, because it is, like you said, it is kind of like a trip, right? All this stuff comes up, the purge. So yeah,
I've never heard of that.
yeah,
Send me some links, man.
yeah, for sure. And I was gonna actually ask you, I want to get some of the links to those personality tests you were talking about. I would love to see like what kind of vibe and energy I am,
Yeah. Well, some good ones are, Myers-Briggs, and there's a website, 16personalities.com. That's like a regular Myers-Briggs one, but they're really good at kind of breaking things down. And then I took Sally Hogshead. She has one called How the World Sees You. You can just Google that, and that's almost like the flip side. It's what energy you're giving off, because you're talking a language that is authentic to you. And I noticed after taking that test, anytime I didn't speak in that language, it didn't resonate with people. So, for instance, like if you have to generate a lot of trust and security, like an accountant or a doctor, right? That's not a language I speak very well. And anytime I tried to do that in business, I wasn't the right person to communicate that message.
Right.
Like people don't get that from me. For me, people get innovation, luxury, and like kind of like adventure. So I'm like, what's next? Moving forward, a lot of innovation kind of stuff versus I'm not selling trust in the way that, an accountant or a doctor would. So her personality test is great. How the World Sees You. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I'll check it out, man, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. What is your Myers-Briggs, out of curiosity?
I'm an ENTP.
ENTP.
So, yeah, very entrepreneurial. It's actually it's pretty rare, and it actually looks a lot like ADD, which told me because the personality can be a disorder. So I didn't know anything about ADD as a kid. After college, all my friends a lot of them were doctors. I was the only business guy in a bunch of doctor roommates. And later they were like, we were talking casually, and they were taking Adderall and stuff, med school. And I was like, oh, what is this? And they were telling me about ADD. They're like, dude, you definitely have ADD. I was like, do I? And so then, I thought I fudged the test just so I can get some Adderall from a prescription from a doctor, but it actually helped, right? And it'll help anybody. It's a nootropic, right? So ADD or not, it'll definitely help you tap in. But it showed me a different thing, and I started studying it. And for a while, I thought I had ADD, and so I started learning all these modalities to deal with that and try to turn that into a superpower. Until one day, I realized from my Myers-Briggs, I'm like, oh, I don't have ADD. I have ADD under stress. If I'm not taking care of myself properly and I'm not doing what I need to do, my ENTP personality turns into these ADD traits. Right? It's kind of like the inner shadow. So, anything you can understand about yourself is going to help you see your blind spots better.
Absolutely. What is your astrological sign? Like
Pisces.
Pisces? Oh, did we talk about this? Because I'm Pisces too.
Yeah, I think we did. You mentioned that.
Probably why we
You should check out your human design. So that's another really good one.
Human design.
So I think for human, and if you Google it, you can see a test online. It's pretty easy to find. It takes your birthday, exactly where you were born, some other factors, and like 2 or 3 other factors. You put these in, it tells you what your human design is. And it's a lot like your personality. I don't know if I can fully explain it very well, but I'm a manifesting generator. And when I started reading about what manifesting generators are and what they do, I'm like, how do they know this? Just from looking at my birthday and where I was born and so forth. So, but these things, I think the universe is probably a big clock, right? The way it moves. And depending on when you were popped back into this physical plane, that point in the clock, it has some effect, right? I don't know if it's magnetic. I don't know what it is, but I know that clearly, the moon has an effect on us for 80-something% water and, the tides. And so all this stuff affects us, right? And so I don't understand everything, but if I'm open to it and I can recognize like, oh, okay, seems like it makes sense to me. I can see this pattern. I see it happening already before I even took the test, and it just gave me clarity. So I would definitely encourage you to check out your human design.
For sure, man. It's interesting how just more learning about this. Like I'm an ENFP, so like literally there's only like one
ENFP.
Yeah, only one difference between.
So you're feeling. F is for feeling, right?
Yeah.
I think. And ENT is for, I don't remember. Thinking? Yeah. Thinking or feeling. That's those two. And so it's just how you process stuff when you come in. Dude, that's amazing. And you're Pisces.
Yeah, I know,
right? You might even be a manifesting generator.
I'll let you know when I take the test. It makes sense though, because like you were saying that you felt you had like ADD and stuff, and for me, like I know my biggest like struggle was this, like I was just way too emotional. Like my emotions would just run me over, man, run me wild, and like I could be feeling like fucking amazing and ready to tackle the world for like a week, and then all of a sudden just tank. And like this was a pattern for my life. I was kind of like bipolar, where I would just, for me it was like bipolar, not necessarily ADD, but like I literally was like, yeah, man, I would go like, it was like an existential crisis, like an annual existential crisis that would happen, sometimes even twice, that I already knew. I was expecting it because I was just like, yep, it's going to come here sometime. And then it would destroy me and I'd go in this deep depression. And then finally I'd emerge and I'd be like all happy and good again. And then I was like, man, how do I break this pattern? Because I felt stuck. And that's where my work is really, this is why my work was born. And, I talked to you about the Den of Men. I don't know if I talked to you about like what we're actually doing in there, but I created a tool called Emotional Alchemy, which allows me to, it's a series of questions that I answer anytime I feel triggered, that allows me to get clarity over like my emotions and then again, like put me back into the channel, And so I guess this is a good segue into the next question I want to ask you about, is that, I guess you sort of already touched upon it, but I'd like to ask it and frame it in this particular way, which is that like the whole, like a big part of this emotional thing is the grounding of the energy, right? Or else it gets stagnant and stays within the body. And then, it just, like you said, it can fry your circuits, just kind of like keeps you stuck. So for me, like the distinction I like to help my clients realize is the difference between like numbing and grounding, right? Because obviously I feel like there's some overlap there, but I'm curious because I'm actually trying to figure out for myself and expand my understanding of this to you. Like, where does, because for example, like taking a little drink of like alcohol, or maybe taking like a little toke of weed or something, like where does the grounding of something turn into numbing and vice versa in your own life?
Great question. So I'm big on state management. Like I told you, like what state am I in? What state do I want to be in? And another rule, always move from a place of abundance, right? And not a place of lack. So when it comes to like substances and things like that, I never think of them as grounding. Like, I guess you can use them to help you ideate or get to another state for sure. And that's how I use them. So I've been working all day. I've been in meetings. I'm not that fun. I'm going to a party. I'll have a drink. because I want to be in a fun state. I want to be high, energetic, or same thing with marijuana. I might do that, or even like I've done different stuff, you know, MDMA or whatever, depending on where I am now and where do I want to be. And so, and only using it in that way prevents abuse and other bad things that you can get into if you're using it to make up the difference for something. If you need grounding, and I'm no expert on this, just in my own life, I just look at it like if I wanted it in a bad state, it's not a good time to take it. I'm going to do it from a good state, from an abundant state, from a happy state already. Or even if I'm just like, okay, I need to go have fun and dance, or I'm going out. And then while I'm out doing that, then a lot of times I'll decide to have a drink or whatever, or I could not and be equally fine. You know what I mean? It's just a judgment call in the moment. Mm. But I won't use it to make up. If I need to make up something like that's lacking, like we were talking about earlier, I'm like, all right, let me try to figure out what's going on. Oh, wait, it feels like this might be a connectivity thing or a community thing. All right, I'll try acro yoga. Okay, I'm going to join this boxing gym, or, I'm going to do this new HIIT workout or whatever that thing is, and see if that can do it first. Because I know if I could change my physiology, it'll improve and change my psychology and help me get clarity. It'll have me in a better state. Now I can deal with whatever in a better way. And to be honest, dude, I've been like you on occasion, especially when I was in my last, serious relationship before I left my fiance, and I was just melancholy and burnt out. I couldn't find my happy place all the time. That's kind of my default mode, is happy. And suddenly I had this just flatness, that I couldn't describe. I really thought that was it. Like I might be like this forever. I didn't see it into it. Fortunately, it did come to an end. But it came to an end through activity. Like, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom. You need to be sick and tired of being sick and tired until you mentally like, fuck this, I'm going to get better. And you hear this from like addicts, you hear this from different people who changed their life, where they just refuse. I'm not taking this anymore. I don't even know the answer or how to do it. But that determination, that intent, when you conspire, the universe conspires with you, as they say. And you take a nudge toward it, it'll take a nudge toward you. It's the intent and the sincere heart of seeking. I want to find an answer. Dude, you will 100% of the time. You'll be led to a place. You just have to be open and ready to receive it when it comes.
Mm. Yeah, I like that about setting it. It seems like there's a theme of like setting intentions before. And I think I don't do that often enough. Like I'm realizing now, just hearing how intentional it seems like you are in your manifesting. Like oftentimes I take this very passive, because I feel like I do manifest things in my life, but I'm not consciously putting them out there. Like this is what I'm creating. Like it's more so like I have a general idea and I kind of let it come. But for you, it sounds like you really like get specific about what you want, and then you go and get it, right?
So kind of. I think, and I've been told this is the Pisces thing in the Navy. Actually, I'm driven from like sacral energy. And so a lot of times I'll just sit and reserve judgment kind of until I feel it. And you're, I don't know, but you might be similar, where you feel a jolt and then you have that like inspiration for the thing, and then I move in that action, right? Mm-hmm. So until then, I may or may not have clarity. So I may take action, but I'm also comfortable in waiting. I've become more and more comfortable over the years, and just like, I'm not going to force it, because that's how you end up getting what you don't want. You can still get it, right? Force, not flow, until it hits me in a more like this libidinal energy, the sacral energy, where it's like, fuck yeah, or, yes, I need to do that kind of thing. Then I'll just I'm waiting. And in the waiting, I've actually enjoyed, like this happened recently, dude, where when I came to Guadalajara this last time, for a few days, I was just a little like, blah, for some reason. And then I thought to myself, like, dude, you just got back from living in a teepee on the beach. Like, you know what I mean? You had this amazing life. Maybe you can like calm for a minute and feel all your feelings and let it happen. And sure enough, dude, like I just sat the same way I would sit with hunger, because how you do anything is how you do everything. It tends to bleed into your life. I kind of just let the melancholy be and didn't disparage it. I didn't try to like, drug it away, push it away. I was like, I'm just see how this goes for a minute. And within, a few days or whatever, I hadn't even noticed it was gone. And I was back to like energetic self. Maybe I just needed a break. Maybe I just needed to sit down and needed to let my body do that thing, or process or whatever it was doing. And no, if it had become a problem and it was like weeks or months, yeah, I'm also doing proactive things too. Well, maybe I need to connect to community. Maybe I need to go, change my gym workout. We have a different kind of life, which I would encourage anybody who can definitely try to find a way, because moving to a new location, even if it's not a different country, even if it's a different, vacation has this effect too, right? You move to a new location, you tend to get an energy pop just from the novelty and the newness of a new environment. It changes your energy. So, I would do things like that to try to ground, find that place and figure out what the core is. And sometimes the answer is let it happen. Like life is life, right? It's meant to do that. We're not meant to be on this high all the time. So sometimes you have to let it happen.
With that being said, like, I'm curious, how does your sleep change, like, along with those emotions? Like, do you find yourself sleeping more when you get into those melancholy states?
No, not anymore. But at that time in that relationship, I did. And it was also complex because I think I was having Adderall crashes and I didn't know it. So I kept trying to power through. So, I've recommended like one 10 milligram tab, but I could take up to 3 a day. And so then I was like, all right, I'm melancholy. I can't push through. Adderall like has the super, kind of the same family as cocaine, like take over the world kind of euphoria. So then I was taking 2 or 3, like it told me I could, and doing that every day. And I was drinking coffee on top of it to like amp the effect. And then it just bottom out, dude, by like 3, 4 o'clock. And literally sitting on the floor, couldn't move to the door. And I was falling into depression. And I was in this bad relationship. And my business, it was failing. It already failed. Like, I couldn't afford my rent anymore. And all kind of stuff was happening. And literally, I remember on topic, I pulled out of it. I remember we had workout fitness classes in my building downstairs in the gym. All I had to do was get to the elevator. And then it was so hard, I couldn't even do it. And then one day I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm like, I woke up with it. I'm going to the gym today. I'm going to that class. When it happens, I'm going. And I remember like 2:50. I'm looking at the door. I'm sitting on the shag carpet in my living room. I had no mojo. And I literally crawled on my belly, like army in the mud style to the door. Like, dude, just get to the door. I got to the door. I put my shoes on and I moped to the elevator and went down, did the workout, and I felt better. It was enough to give me a little bit of endorphins to encourage me to want that feeling again, right? So sometimes you just have to scrape through and kind of do what you have to do. That was the first step in starting the path to recovery from that situation and moving on. It's not always easy. It's tough.
What is your sleep routine now? Because this is something I struggle with. Is I love to wake up early and just fucking have that morning and dominate it, like just for myself. But then of course you balance that out with like, it's hard for me to balance that out with like going out and being social because everybody wants to hang out late. And then I kind of just end up being like, I gotta wake up at like 6 a.m. tomorrow, like and crush it. So I'll see you guys later. So how do you deal with that? What's your strategy?
It's tough sometimes. Like I'm better at that now. Like I'd rather day party, you know what I mean? And when I have a beach town, then that's really easy. But I'm, again, I sacrifice stuff because I can, right? And I keep that in mind. Like, all right, you're not going out with them now, but you got much bigger things to work on. Right? You've done plenty of going out, tons of clubbing in your life. Like right now, you're in a different season. Stay focused on that. But sleep has been a struggle for me too, man, because of my curiosity, I think. From being a kid, kids don't want to go to bed because they might miss something. I don't think I ever outgrew that. And one year, after hearing so much, podcasts, I think Sean Whalen was talking about it on a podcast one day, some other stuff. I knew sleep was important, but I decided to figure out how much. Like, let me see if what they're saying is true. Let me put this knowledge in the game, as I said, and see what it does. And dude, I made it my New Year's resolution one year. And I really do I don't make resolutions unless I'm going to try to actually do it.
Yeah.
It is a foundational habit, bro. Like it changed my life. That is like for 18 months until I started flying across the country again, doing consulting work. Uh, I I had better quality and quantity of sleep. So I changed a lot of my room. I took the TV out the room because you tend to have more sex if you don't have a television. And then my girlfriend and my fiance at the time wanted it in there anyway. So like, all right, well, we're not watching it. This is for making videos. So we can make porn with it, but we can't we can't watch TV. Like, and I cover all the lights like on the television, so it's completely dark. And I'm a city dude. Like I'm used to sleeping with outdoor light, fire trucks and stuff going by. And that year, like I did everything that they tell you to do because your skin is photovitalic. It picks up little light even when you sleep. It'll keep you from reaching, all four stages of sleep or disturb it. And somehow I didn't eat carbs after a certain time, which actually worked out physically. Because you'll have it's like a sugar crash, you'll have that in the middle of the night and then knock you out of one of those four back into the early stages. Dude, my memory improves. I remember stuff from when I was a kid that I never remembered. And I would have cousins and people tell me, oh, remember when we were doing this? And a lot of times I wouldn't because I had been abusing my sleep. I need 7.5 hours to be my best me. And if you're getting less than what you need, you're not going to be the best you. It doesn't matter. If you need 9 hours, you need 9 hours. People that need 5 hours is literally a genetic advantage. So on sleep, you have to get the best quality you can. That said, it's tough for us too. If you're changing time zones and changing cities, changing bed accommodations, my sleep has definitely suffered right now. I'm in playoff mode. Last week I had big deals that not only I pushed through, now I'm executing on these deals and configuring and getting stuff done. And short-term sacrifices I've made, and I don't think I should. It's probably not right. I just don't know a better way to do it. Yeah. But then I recognize too, this can't continue, right? So I slept in this morning, which I never do. I didn't get up till like 11:30. I went out last night with some people, which I tend not to do, but I think it's important to do some connecting, And you're right, it's a constant like yin yang and balance. But in general, just like my meals, I eat the same all the time. And then if I want to go out and eat like whatever, or if it's, Sunday fun day, I let it ride. Like it's all good on Sunday fun day. And I treat my sleep similar. I just try to have better sleep overall. And then every now and then you disturb that pattern, but get back into it as quickly as you can. It really did fix everything.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. I gotta find a beach town so that I don't have to just party at night.
And you're Pisces, and again, I don't know about a lot of the woo-woo stuff, but it seems like it makes sense when people are like, dude, you're a water sign. I'm like, is that why I love it so much? Is that what's going on? You're literally kind of resets me.
I feel like I've been fighting. Man. I don't know why. Like maybe it's because I actually have no idea why, but like I've gravitated more towards the mountains. I mean, I was living in Taos before this in New Mexico, desert mountains, but
yeah,
I think I needed it in a way to kind of like, again, the dissension process, right? I needed to kind of go and live a little bit of that hard, rugged life to get me a little bit more in touch with my masculine energy because I was lacking that for a long time in my life and just being a people pleaser. But like I started literally drying out. Like my skin I started getting nosebleeds all the time because it was so
wow.
that like I'm prone to nosebleeds. It's always been kind of like an issue in my life. But literally, like when I went back to visit, I was getting nosebleeds like every single time I blew my nose. And I went back to Virginia, where it's really humid, to visit my family. Nosebleeds went away like that, dude. And I was just like, man, I need humidity. That's why I like St. Peace, because even though it's the mountains, it's not like the desert. So there's a lot of it means a lot. So, maybe I need to find myself a little beach town, man. You're inspiring me now to get back and connect to that because I feel like I don't know, for some reason I've been like, the beach, because I think it's my rebellious nature. Like everybody like loves the beach, and so I'm like, I don't need the beach. Like I'll be in the mountains, like a yogi, just in the cave.
Dude, I never really, again, I thought this most of my life. I thought it was kind of like fluffy or whatever. I remember when I graduated from college, I moved to Indianapolis. I went to Indiana University, but I'm from the tip of Lake Michigan. And, we didn't have like a beach culture. They got steel mills on the beach and stuff, but we would go in the summer, But I noticed after living in Indy for a while, and I would go home to visit family, I was like, oh, I think I missed the lake. That's weird. I never even went to the lake a lot. I felt landlocked, and it was giving me a certain kind of like anxiety, kind of low level hum of anxiety. And I was like, maybe I just don't like being landlocked. And so I didn't feel that way living in Chicago when I moved there. And after that, even like in the last year when I moved to Playa del Carmen, and I've never lived in a beach culture like that before, like steps off the beach and would go all the time and every day kind of thing. And another buddy of mine that I met there, who's a Pisces, and we were talking about this. He goes, "Yeah, bro, you're a water sign." I was like, "Is that what's going on?" Because I definitely feel something, man, that the beach is giving me, and I didn't anticipate that at all. It's never been a thing for me. I like them. I go to the beaches, and but it was never like a thing. I did know I didn't like to be landlocked, and I think there's levels, right?
Absolutely.
You try it out. You at least you get the pro con and see.
Maybe that's what I'm missing, dude. I just need a little bit of that. Well, also, man, I think I just have like a handful more questions, and then we can, just kind of like wrap it up organically in a way that feels good. I know
Sure. I wonder if I should switch devices too. My iPad says 6%. I can jump to my phone. I don't want it to cut off in the middle of a thing.
Yeah, sure. We can just pause this for a second and let me know when you're back on. All right, cool, man. Well, so yeah, I just have like a few more questions. Hopefully we can hit it before all your devices run out of memory. So I want to talk to you a little bit about just, so we kind of went deep into all these like practical things. And well, I mean, we've been kind of interweaving it, to be honest, but we talked about women a lot. But I want to kind of ask you some bigger picture questions. Like, for example, what does purpose mean to you? And like, how does that show up in your own life?
Sure. Good question. I don't often like overtly think about it, but we all need purpose, right? So working for yourself and traveling on the road, kind of, being a man of your own destiny. This is pivotal. You have to figure out what that purpose is. And I don't think it's one thing, to be honest. I think if you whittle it down to the lowest common denominator, that purpose is growth and expansion through giving, right? And so it's not fully growth and expansion if you're not giving it. So at a micro level, I would say that's my purpose. But at then you got granular levels as you move up. Like in business, my purpose is to expand in that way, right? To add more value to customers, to clients, to shareholders. I literally look for places to add value. That's kind of what entrepreneurs do. Hey, here's a gap. This isn't happening. Somebody ought to fix this. Well, a lot of times that somebody will end up being me. In my family, often my purpose is growth and expansion that way. I guess that's the answer to the question. Because, I look at it, somebody has to be the glue sometimes. Like the families are units and they go through all the variations of life. And I always try to look like, how am I being a resource here to my family? I send them stuff like everybody probably does, and send them articles and have conversations. But I'm also looking for like, okay, how can I really add value? Not just be a member of this family, but be a force in it to help it improve. To the extent you can. Everybody's individual, but the same thing in relationships. So I really think that is where purpose is born, and then you have to find out where your lane for this growth and expansion and giving should live.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's relatively younger and feels like they're not aligned with their purpose? How can they get more in line with their purpose?
You start giving in gratitude. That sounds, like some cliche stuff that you hear, but if you really start to get deep into gratitude, that's actually one of the things that when I was rebuilding my life, I was doing hypnosis at night. It's a gratitude hypnosis, and I didn't know this stuff was working at first, but I would see the results of it because you don't remember your final thoughts before you go to sleep. But the next day, I was like, oh wow, and I had this amazing day. It was full of like gratitude and everything. Like the smallest things were like phenomenal to me. And then the next day, that night, I would open my Audible app to do my hypnosis again and notice that it popped up, the last thing that I played. I'm like, oh, that's why I had such a great day. And so, dude, if you're tapped into those channels of gratitude and giving, I think you'll find your purpose. I think, it will find you, right? You just took a step toward the universe, a powerful step, because, these forces of like love, gratitude, and giving are super powerful, and you can't move on them without reaping some type of return. You just can't. So you have to be, and it's funny, I want to say you have to be open to seeing it when it comes, but you can't really help it. If you, again, in these worlds of gratitude, that's why it's such a hack. Having gratitude is one of the biggest hacks ever into happiness, achievement, productivity, getting on the right channel. Sleep is a hack too, but I think the biggest hacks are gratitude and giving. Definitely.
That's beautiful, man. What I like most about life, I guess, is like when I meet people that, even though I knew that, right? Like, even though I knew that gratitude and giving is so important, like hearing you say it in that way, just like shook me in a way where it's like, damn, man, like I thought I knew the importance of it, but I didn't even know the importance of it, man. It's even deeper than I thought. And yeah, man, I never even considered gratitude as a means to find your purpose and to get more aligned and giving, right? Because ultimately, like, whenever I ask, I still am a life coach, but I don't have clients right now. But when I was doing my life coaching work, and I would ask people like what they think their purpose is, one of the most common answers that I just get is like helping people, right? Like that's like the answer everyone always kind of gives, and it almost felt like cliche in a certain sense. But like it's really like what you're saying. I mean, that's what gives you the most fulfillment to the majority of people is to like know that you made a positive impact in somebody's life. And so I can see how by doing that, you can actually, like you said, you start to be like, oh wow, like, man, I feel so good doing this thing. Like, maybe I should do more of this thing, right? And then from there, with the universe's guidance, you kind of go finding your lane, so to speak, like you said. So
yeah, and it applies to anything, like in business, like it's gratitude and giving. Like Steve Jobs made a device that I'm on an iPhone. Like we're connected now. This guy changed the world because he had a passion, and he probably, I don't know him, but from what I've studied of him, I don't know if he thought of it overtly that way. But he created expansion because he's like, there's a gap here that needs to be filled. And at that time, people didn't even want what he was bringing to the table. Like a phone with no buttons on it? Like, what? It doesn't flip? Like, wait, it's just flat? Get out of here, dude. Nobody wants this. Like, it's awkward. It's, problems. He's like, nope, you're going to love this. Here you go.
Yeah, the Razor, remember that?
Oh, yeah. I had a Razor. I love that phone. But it was like the flat buttons, The hot thing was like the BlackBerry when Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone. So, but if you focus on that, you'll find your lane. It'll come to you. And there's probably more than one. So the same thing, if you don't know what business to start, don't start from a place of how can I make the most money? Think of where you can have the most impact. And to do that, you have to have deep empathy, right? I can really make a difference here for this group of people. So niche down. This group of people would love what I'm bringing to the table. And a lot of times you find that within you, right? Here's my capabilities. Here's what I can do. I know I can make something great for them. And now you have the passion, like, dude, like I heard Brian Tracy, actually. You know Brian Tracy?
Yeah.
Old school sales coach guy. And he was like, if you knew, no, I'm sorry. I actually got this from Alex Hermosi. But he said, if you knew you could help a customer, like 100%, no matter what. He goes, when would you stop calling? Like, hey, dude, I can help you. I really can. Like, if you really believed it, like your enthusiasm to help that person would drive you forward. And he was talking about how this leads to success in business. The Brian Tracy thing, I was thinking was a little bit different, but similar in a way. Like, if you knew, like, you want to find your limiting beliefs because we all have them. And he said, if you knew that you could, every phone call you make from now till midnight, you were going to close your sale, 100%. And would you stop at 11:50? No, because if you can make one more phone call, you know you're going to get one more sale up until midnight. You go, so anytime you're not doing that, anytime you're not, moving from that place, that's the limiting belief. If somebody's done it before, you don't feel like you could do it again. If you're not believing in yourself, this is how you find it. So I use those kind of two things in conjunction. Like, I know I can help these people, but then sometimes there's that first layer, right? And that's where Brian Tracy comes in. Like, all right, I need to find these limiting beliefs and figure out how come I'm not doing that thing already. And then now I can give wholeheartedly. Like, I know I can help them. Here's how I can help you. Like, can I help you yet? Like, just keep coming at them, but not from a needy place that I need the money, from I've got what you need place, right? For that particular thing. It works across the board.
I love how so much of what seems like to have gotten you to the level of success that you are now is just been reframing the mindset. And it's like the actions themselves are almost like the same actions other people take, but the way that you're the intention, the place that you're coming from is the difference, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that comes from within, right? So only you can control that. So I can try to build it better, you know what I mean, and be gritty. You said that word grit. It's a great word, by the way. It's a book Carol Dweck wrote called Grit. It's phenomenal. And the ability, was it Churchill? I think it was Churchill. Man, I don't want to misquote him. But basically, grittiness comes from the ability to continue forward without encouragement. In fact, sometimes the other way, all things not pointing to evidence, with no evidence or encouragement, you're able to keep going forward. It's as simple as that.
Love that, man. So where do you see, in the context of purpose in your own life, what are you most excited to work towards in the future? What do you see on the horizons coming your ways that you're just most excited to bring into fruition in this life?
Yeah. So again, I'm working on this generating and manifesting from a place of abundance, across the board in all my life. So because I've done it in little stuff, right? I started off, back in the day, I think we talked about this, manifesting parking spots, right? And then one day it occurred to me, what a dumb superpower to have. I always get rockstar parking. What else can I do with this? Where else can this go? And for men, I've been on this constant quest to try to figure it out, sometimes with more intensity than others. But now I'm trying to build freedom, because I can't get to everything I want to get to being who I am today, or who I've been up to this point, right? So I'm kind of a hustler. I can inject a bunch of energy, hustle some stuff up, and get and get momentum and on a business or on a project. But I often tend to stay there, right? Like an entrepreneur, stay there way too long, like a startup guy, or like a consultant, like I said. But Warren Buffett, he might work an hour a day, or maybe an hour or two a week, right? The rest of the time he's reading and he's building, right? So he's thinking and growing rich, right? And to break my habit of trying to earn it, I think I need to move to another place. I'm actually kind of working hard right now to buy freedom. Because if I could buy freedom, I would take a week and go to a tantra retreat and see if I can increase that part of my life and the power, see what I get out of it. I would go to a silent retreat in Bali or somewhere and, spend 21 days without speaking to see what I can get out of it and what I can give. I would go to more conferences, but I have to buy freedom, right? So I'm very motivated right now, and have been motivated to work toward that, knowing that this is not the end goal. This is playoff season. Put in a box and don't, you have a deadline that you have to hit to get to that. There's a certain amount of revenue I want to bring in per week, and a certain amount of structure I need to have in my company. And now sometimes I fall into the bad habit of giving myself a job. It's like the company is pushing me around, Now I've got 4 of them. They do kind of push me around, but I'm done with that. I'm done with them pushing me around. And so to build a better box, to have more growth and more expansion, to be able to do more and offer more, you need to be more. Well, for me, that's the growth level. I need to get to that point where, like Jeff Bezos said, I pay my top executives to make 2 or 3 decisions a day. That's it. You know, and he's like, I might make 2 or 3 important decisions a quarter. You know what I mean? He's spending the rest of his time focused on learning and expansion and clarity so he can see what's going on. And it sounds easy, but that's actually the hard part. You think if you're Bezos, you got everybody and everything in the world, and you know the fire that must have to go on in his world if he let it. Pressure, shareholders, all kind of stuff. But to keep being who he's been and keep growing to that level, or Elon Musk, or fill in the blank, they have to have enough space to be clear. Musk might be a different example. Like he seems like he's always working a lot. He's cut from a different cloth. But he may not be healthy either. Like, right? Like we talked about that. He's channeling all that energy there, but other parts of his life, who knows? And to some level, he's done the same. Like I told you right now, live in a dorm, in a bed, a bunk bed in a hostel. I kind of got part of that idea from him. Actually, the comfort I got from him. So this idea came, and I was uncomfortable with it. I felt like I was too much of a grown man for this. And Elon Musk sold all his multi-million-dollar houses. He lives in a $50,000 convertible, shed that they turned to a house, basically. Because, as he put it, I removed attack vectors. So these are things that could come in and disrupt my life or attack, or just one more thing to deal with. I don't want to pour any energy into that. I'm going to pour it into getting a colony started on Mars. So it's like, it's a good way to move forward and do that. But yeah, like back to our point, I don't know if the rest of his life is balanced, but you and I know better. We literally cannot have all the abundance in this current plane of existence now at one time. So it's there if you want it. The life you want, the money you want, the body you want, all of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a phone call popped in. I hope it didn't cut me out.
It's all good. Yeah, I mean, we're almost done here anyways. I'll let you get back to your life. But along with this is like, what do you feel like if there was like only one thing that you could change about the world, like to improve, like what would that change be that you would like to see?
Oh, wow. I know what that would be. I talk about a lot, actually. I think it's imperative. So me personally, I'm on a mission to make men great again by sharing information, knowledge, and love and helping men to grow. Often we don't have language for our feelings and things that we think, and we have unique challenges. And to be honest, there seems to be a war on masculinity going on in the world today, for sure. And I think, and not just men, but I think we need to expand our consciousness because, in particular, as it regards to men, I think unconscious men who are, heavy in responsibility and achievement, because we tend to lean on that masculinity, and light on a lot of the things that you and I incorporate in our life and what we've been talking about, will destroy the world, right? It's like take, grow. Chop down the rainforest. We need more production, this and more of that. And if we don't expand global consciousness, I just think it's mad. Like we won't be here forever. Off topic, on topic. I think that's probably the richest, smartest, most connected people on the planet, all trying to buy water and get out of here, right? It's because it's just math. We have to live on different rocks in order to up our probability of being here for much, much longer. And the current ways of thinking, the old ways of thinking won't get us there. If we don't expand our consciousness, it's destructive. And we see that already. We see like these little points, and it's like we all know it, and we've all been talking about it, and we all been seeing it for, increase for 50 years, but we have to do something about it. And in that doing, yes, everybody's got their part to do, and some people are, and I'm not saying this is bad or good, I'm just citing it. Some people are big on, we need to recycle more, and we need to do more of this or more of that. What we really need to do is expand our consciousness so that we are not just as man. I wish I could think of his brother's name right now. I send it to you. He's out of Detroit. He rocked my world last week. I heard him on a talk on the Breakfast Club, and I saw him on Joe Rogan too. And he said, "I was just a masculine male and not a complete man. We need to move to being complete men and not just masculine males. And dude, when he said that, it was so powerful. I was like, dude, that is right on point. Because even myself, for a long time, I was focused on being more masculine male and reveling in that, and kind of ignoring being a complete man, right? And a complete man is just that, it's complete. And you need these other parts. You need to be appropriately connected to your femininity. You need to sometimes be connected to outside actual females in your life. Because I know a lot of guys that just live in a man world, including me in a lot of ways. But they almost like despise women. Like, I got a lot of red pill MGTOW friends. You know, I'm like, dude, that's out of balance. Like, I get the point. A lot of guys think I'm a MGTOW guy too. Are you familiar with this term, MGTOW? Yeah, but I don't have this women hatred. I don't think that part is helping you grow and expand. I don't think that makes it better. You know what I mean? So that's off. We need to come back this way and adjust a bit. So I think this is super important. If I could give anything to the world, it'd be that. And I think that's what you're doing. I think more podcasts like this, more of this type of messaging that can connect to more people so that men can share this tribalness that we need. Men are tribal, and in our world today, we don't have a lot of these old school tribal things. It varies by culture, but not as much as we used to as a whole. And I think it's left us at a loss. That it's past time to feel.
Absolutely, I resonate with that so hard, man. I actually didn't even know that was you felt so strongly about it. That's actually amazing to hear that. Because it sounds like we have similar missions, and dude, I would love to talk to you like on a separate time, like about like the business aspect of all of this, because I kind of wanted to keep this call more so about the feminine energy, masculine energy, women, and just kind of like the broader mindsets to have, right? Because you kind of need that before, like if you try to go start this, you're having all this like mental blocks and stuff. It's going to be very challenging. And I speak from experience. When my stuff didn't really pan out too much when I first got into this whole business thing, because I had so many limiting beliefs that I wasn't even aware of, and I kind of had to purge that before. I mean, you can kind of do it in like at the same time too, simultaneously. I think that
for sure.
Even before you're ready, I think a business can help you. But anyways, all that being said, I would love to pick your brain more about like some actual like business stuff sometimes, and just see if there's anywhere we can like work together. Because I had no idea that was like your. I'm so glad that I asked that question, because I really didn't know you were
brother.
about that, man. It really does sound like we're on the same thing here, and I feel like there's more that we can do together, and even a greater significance and synchronicity to the reason that we met. So.
This is why we energetically met at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Like having lunch, and somehow ended at the same table. And we had a conversation. There's a girl there too, and she's like, "Yeah, I think you guys would like each other." Boop, she took off, and then it's just me and you there. Yeah, that's how it works, though. This happens a lot. I think in my life, I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
And when you're in flow, the universe will bring you what you need. It'll bring you partners. It'll bring you guys that that can stand in there with you, and you guys can trade ideas and thoughts and strength and vulnerability, and actually increase expand consciousness rather.
So much of that is listening to your intuition, and like that day specifically, actually, like I don't eat there for dinner usually, right? I have my like certain restaurants that I go to, but that day I was like, I'm not feeling any of these restaurants. I'm like I have this with the avocate, and I'm like, why though? I like never eat there for dinner. I only eat there for breakfast. And I was like, well, whatever. Let me just go see like what's going on over there. And then even when I got in there, like I actually didn't see you guys at first, because I kind of just peeked outside, and it didn't look like there was any tables available, right? And so I was like, I guess I'll sit inside. But then I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to sit outside, and that's when I actually.
Wow.
And then I saw you, and I saw I forgot her name, but
Katie.
Yeah, Kate. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And then she left, and then we got into this whole thing. So a big part of that is listening to this intuition, even if you don't even certain why, and letting it kind of guide you and like, I'm feeling this pull to do this and just going with it. So I love that, man.
That's awesome, man. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, pretty much like, I guess my last question for you, you talk about manifesting, being manifesting generator. I think this would be a lovely gift to share with like anybody watching this, as to kind of take away a little bit of like a practical method of manifesting. So like, can you outline some steps that you go through and that you would encourage other people to get through so that they can manifest properly or efficiently without like feeling like it's just like the law of attraction saying like, oh, I just want it, so I'm going to get it. And that's what it is. Like where's the nuances? Can you explain the nuances within that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, actually. It's all state management. So you want to be on high vibration, not a low vibration, right? And when you're setting your intention, you want to set that from your high vibration. How do you get a high vibration? You can do it by listening to a podcast or music, kind of getting hyped up, that feeling you have. It's easy to do it at a gym. If you want to get into tantric practices, it's very easy after sex, right? So you're at a super high vibration after orgasm, right? And so if you're combining these modalities of orgasm, semen retention, at the same time, you got this power from the semen retention. The orgasm has you at a very, very high vibration. It's a great time to set intentions and like meditate. It seems like it might be weird to some people, depending on your partner or who you're with, where you're like, right after you're like, all right, let's meditate right quick. I'm about to set my intention. But a lot of people, it sounds fluffy, man, but it's real, because now you're in the right state, the right vibrational state to attract. And if you don't, you don't have to use sex to do that. It's just like working out can do it. These other things that get you in this high vibration. And then thinking about what you want. And if you can't think about what you want, a good way to do it is to do a gratitude practice where you ask questions. So me, I'll do like affirmations for sure. I have a few things that I like to listen to, and I do it like once a day that gives me these affirmations around money and abundance, right? And I repeat after the guy, just under my breath as I'm walking usually. But the other thing you can do is ask powerful questions because, for example, like when's the last time you, Danny, felt fantastic? Damn, you see what you just did? You looked up to the left, and your brain immediately went to answer that question. Like not in the creative side, but in the like recalling side of your brain. That's how human minds work. We can't help it.
Yeah. Right.
And so if you ask yourself questions, how is it that I am surrounded by such lovely like people that love me? Why is it that, and you have to like sometimes the gap is like in an affirmation, like, okay, I have $1 million. I have $1 million. If you don't believe it because it's not happening, you can't lie to your subconscious. So you can ask yourself a better question that you can find evidence for. Your brain's immediately going to look for evidence, right? Like, how is it that I feel fantastic every day? I'm just making one up off the top of my head. But, short questions that are very powerful that you can ask, are more powerful than affirmations. And that will tune you to a manifestation channel because you're already seeing the evidence of it. How is it that I'm surrounded by such love every day? Man, why is it that I have, and especially if you're feeling that way, why is it that I have so much energy all the time? Man, every day I'm looking better and better. Like you just start like, you know what I mean? Before you know it, you're on this right channel to manifest. And now you can also throw in, yep, by the end of the year, boom. You know what I mean? And even if you don't say that, just focus on the positive vibration that you're raising. And then, I like to channel. So I do this like breathing technique where when I'm thinking something, and this is what I was doing when I pushed that energy to that girl that made her jump off the couch, I can breathe in that feeling. Like I'm breathing in that, I'm breathing in that feeling. So that powerful feeling of what it's going to feel like to achieve that thing when I'm in a high vibration. And I can feel it. I can feel it here right now in my heart center as I was doing it. But I've had times where I've pushed it down and I felt it in my sacral center. And that's more like the jump, right? Because all that burst is coming from your libidinal energy. So you can, I'm guessing, because I don't have any mentors, I'm guessing you can put that at any energy center. They're called, your chakras are called energy centers. But just now when I did that, it automatically went to my heart. Now, my friends that are more in the woo-woo side of the spiritual community, usually when I tell them stuff, they'll tell me what it means. They're like, oh, yeah, that's because your heart center does this. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. It just seemed like the right place for it to go. I was breathing in and that's where it went, you know? So I don't know all of that part, but I do know I've seen the result of it because I'm always measuring. Is this real or is it just real to me? Am I being like, you know, whatever, or like how tangible? And I feel like these techniques together have helped me actually manifest because I can see the results of it. I don't know. Was that clear? I dropped a few things in there. I don't know if that was.
No, that's powerful, man. And the questions thing, especially, I had never considered that. Like I said, using a question as an intention. That's awesome, dude. That's definitely something unique that I have not heard.
You find immediate evidence for it when you do that. Your brain just finds it like, boom, here's an example. And now your faith is growing like instant. You know, you don't have to, you can get some of this through repetition for sure. And that's what affirmations are until you build that confidence. But it takes a while. And depending on how much resistance you have, that's why hypnosis is great too, because you can just throw stuff right into the computer without the resistance. If you can be hypnotized, not everybody can. But the questions, for sure, bro. It's a great way to build that faith really quick and put you on that channel.
Yeah, it seems also like a really good way just to tap into gratitude again, which, you know, it's kind of like both hand in hand there.
Yep. Yeah, it's really hard to grow and not be like in the way you want to grow without gratitude. Mm-hmm. Like, what, you're going to build your dream life and be unhappy about it, be grumpy about it? Like, that doesn't work. Like, you're on the wrong channel to get to that thing, you know?
Absolutely. So I said that was the last question, but actually I had a couple more, but they're short ones. I think you can answer pretty quickly.
Do it.
One of them is more just like I hear you talking a lot about obviously books. You reference so many books, oh, sorry, it's just saying it's meeting will end in 10 minutes. So actually, it's perfect. Just enough time here. What is like maybe top 3 or just some books that are coming to mind that you feel like have really created some deep transformation in you?
Definitely Think and Grow Rich. I read that 10 years too late. Somebody told me about it 10 years before I even cracked it. And man, I was like, what took me so long? Maybe I wasn't ready yet. But that was a great one. I like Robert Greene's books are great. 48 Laws of Power changed my life. I literally couldn't see the world the same after reading that book.
Wow. That has a very like brutal honesty like approach to it, which I like. Sometimes I'm resistant to what he says, but then I'm like, but it's kind of true. That's the thing, you know?
Yeah. I'm probably probably a little too brutally honest. Sometimes I don't sugarcoat well, not because I'm trying to be whatever. I also think it degrades communication, right? If you have to sugarcoat it, you might not be able to deliver exactly what you want to say with the force or intent that you really needed to have. So, but some people are really good at like reframing, especially my female friends I'm thinking of, where they can like move it to a different place. I'm like, oh, that sounds so healthy the way you said it. I was just gonna like drop it, you know, but everybody's got their thing. But yeah, he gives it to you just straight, no color, no chaser. Here you go.
Yeah, definitely. You had another book in mind, I think you were about to say before I cut you off there.
It's a few. Mindset by Carol Dweck was a really good one to help you set your mindset. A lot of books I kind of listen to, like Inner Game. That guy Craig Beck, and I'll send it to you. Well, I might be able to find it now, actually. But his book on Inner Game was pivotal. I listened to it for months, over and over and over, especially when I was rebuilding my life. I'm popping up my Audible right now. I can give you. I used to have these written down somewhere, like in the order that I heard them, because they kind of, the universe led me to these books, and it was like a stack, you know, that kind of happened at the same time. So, The 50th Law by Robert Greene was really good. Him and 50 Cent, it's all about fear and conquering fear. The Vortex by Esther Hicks It's a great book, and it's really about staying on the right channel, so that you can have the right vortex, right, and usher things into your life that you want.
So many gems, bro.
It's a ton of business books. I listen to a ton of books on like body language and sales, game, things like that. But
Capital and stuff like that.
Hmm?
Like Jason Capital, I know he talks a lot about like high status.
Oh no, I don't know Jason Capital. Pretty good.
Yeah, he's a little younger. Like he became like a millionaire, I think, when he was like 24, and then he lost it all. And then he actually had a similar story where he went back to live in his mom's basement for a little while and kind of rebuilt his business. But a lot of his stuff is about body language. He used to actually be uh, like a pickup coach basically, and he was just like he had so much. He learned so much game and stuff, but then he like totally like if you see some of his older videos, he's so extreme, man. Like he has such a intense energy, but then you can see him mature now. He's probably in the early 30s or mid 30s or something like that now. But yeah, he wrote a book called High Status. Actually, I haven't read it, but I've seen a bunch of his videos, so I can kind of probably gather what it's about. He talks a lot about tonality and actually something that I took away from him a lot, which was really cool, was he's like, watch yourself, and he's like, notice anytime you do this tonality. When he's like, anytime you're like, when you're like, I don't know, what do you want to do, right? Like, what do you want to do?
Oh yeah,
little kind of thing at the end, right? And he's like, anytime you do that, he's like, just stop that and just make a decision, like not
for sure.
Like, it's like coming from this like wishy-washy, uncertain state. So I thought it was very interesting because as I started to practice it, I felt like kind of like you should start in first and then naturally let that kind of affect your vocal tonality. But when I tried his techniques, like I was like, whoa, actually the switching my vocal tonality is almost affecting my inner game. Like it's this interesting duality here. So yeah, and that's one that we should both.
I check it out. I'm big on like status, and like that's how I was able to like attract in Colombia and these different places like through this high status thing. And I can tell you mad stories of women who I've attracted without talking to them. Like they were across the room at a bar, and one time I was sitting with a friend, and the guy was like, a coworker, and this girl kind of gave me eyes, and I knew before I went out I wanted to meet somebody that night. I was hunting, and literally. You go, I think the girl left. He noticed her too. Like she had a light bulb on her. And I was like, things tend to work out, no worries, I'm hanging out with you. He's like, you should go talk to me and my boy right now. It'll be all right. Things tend to work out. And literally, the second he's like, it looks like she took off, the bartender comes over and he goes, young lady wants you to have her number. Gives me a business card or her personal phone number written on the back. We're still friends to this day. And like I could story after story of that, but that's all like inner game, right? It has to be like you're not talking to people. This is like real stuff. Yeah. I kind of got on this originally from a book called The King Within.
I'm reading that one
named Robert by Robert Moore. Man, awesome book. It just helped me reframe like how to think about being a generative man. First time I ever heard that term.
Yes, bro.
Incredible stuff, man.
So
that's a great book.
I'd listened to that audiobook this morning. I'm like an hour from finishing it right now. It's so powerful, man.
Wow. Powerful book, man. I highly recommend that to anybody.
Yeah.
Trying to think, like, there's so many in here. The Natural Pickup Artist. So that's the book by Craig Beck that he pretty much all talks about inner game. You think he's going to give you a bunch of pickup artists, tip tricks and stuff, and he does a little bit of that in the end of the book, but it's really all about inner game. It's all about in here. So it's an excellent book.
Man. Thank you, bro. You're sharing all of these gems, man. It's awesome. So if somebody wrote a book about your life, what would the title be?
Man, interesting. I don't know. You know what? I don't know, but I do have an intent. I intend to die the most interesting man in the world. Like the guy on TV.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but the real life version. So that might be the title of the book, The Most Interesting Man in the World. So I've been focused on like gathering experiences and just, building the A+ life. I think at the end of that, if you end up with an A+, that's most people don't. Like, not that they can't, because the universe will give you what you ask for, but there you go.
Absolutely. I love that, man. The most interesting, most interesting man in the world. Beautiful. Maybe I'll write that book after you pass away. Well, I love it, man. Thank you so much for being here, bro. We have less than a minute before this thing cuts off. So, yeah, just so much gratitude for you showing up and sharing your gifts and wisdom with the world, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Brother, I really appreciate this opportunity, man. We're going to do big things together. And we'll get together a little later and, talk business and everything else.
I would love that. I'll be reaching out to you. All right, brother. Well, you enjoy your Saturday night, man. Happy Halloween and happy Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Happy Dia de los Muertos. Yeah. Ciao.